This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's okay to go ahead and bring them in here, the security group.
I forget what we're talking about. Didn't show it. Huh? Didn't show it. I think it is. On my calendar. My personal calendar.
Oh, okay.
Personal.
I don't know how many in Marion. There's a few people out there.
Yeah, you missed it. Yeah. Just grab a chair, pull it back, whatever. Yeah.
Who's over talking?
Yeah.
Sit there.
Did you want to talk first, or do you want me to?
What am I here for? Yeah, I'll be happy to if you want me to, Steve, whatever you want to do.
Well, you can give a precursor if you'd like.
Okay. This is the hot seat, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
As soon as Tina gets back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Email us note takers, so.
This is a work session this morning. There'll be no decisions
Thank you.
made in work session. Thank you. And we're out here to talk about security for the courthouse. I think what we've had a lot of previous meetings talked about it. We haven't acted, but a note from the outgoing judge come down here a few weeks ago. And
He's gone.
so that sparked an interest again, but the interest from the judge was for his area up there and the area that they take care of. And we've become a little bit, I think it comes down to courthouse security too, not only just that. So that's where we're at. I think the commission's at. We'd like to look at all things we can do, what we can't do, and maybe, I think we have it even on our list on the board somewhere, isn't it? Courthouse, yeah, and security, yeah, it's up on the board, projects. So that's why we're here today. And Judge Powers, even though you're outgoing and giving your term up, you know, you're still welcome to come back and see us at any time. So sorry I couldn't make it last Friday, but I hear you did get a pretty good crowd today.
Yeah, it was very nice. Thank you, Randy. And I'll be coming in here. I'm going to be writing letters to the editor. We've released the Kraken and now.
You know, we have a man sometimes that we send in here to take care of people like that. He's sent over here, so you better become good friends with that gentleman.
See, no, that's a bad attitude.
Thank you.
Well, Randy's the one I think that's been here from the beginning with regard to my desire to have more uniformed presence in the courthouse, in the courtroom or on the court floor. I've mentioned before that in my experience throughout the judicial district, and keep in mind that, you know, it's my 4-county district and that's where I am most of the time. I have been in many other courthouses, but not holding courts so much. But Marion County is where we have the least security presence. And we've got a jail across the street in both Dickinson and Morris. The jail is connected to the same building. It is a separate building in Geary, although there is a walkway between them. But you send somebody to prison, you have to tell them now, you be a good boy and walk across the street, or you have a seat out in the hallway and we'll call the sheriff and tell them to come over and get you. And surprisingly, usually they do that, but you wonder on occasion why some of them do it. But really it's more a matter of just disruptions in the courtroom. Times that you've got people that aren't following the rules, that are being mouthy, that are getting angry, whatever. At one point in time we had 2 buttons. One button could be pushed that said, we would like an officer to come over. The other was emergency, you know, it's hit the fan, everybody comes now. That was, when Rob became sheriff, he asked that we eliminate the 2 button, thought it was confusing. So now it's just 1 button, which basically, I've never pushed it, because I'm only gonna push it in an emergency. But there are times you wanna have somebody there. There are a lot of days that I feel like if we had somebody up there, they would become involved in situations. But we get past it, so I guess that could be an argument, well, you didn't really need anybody anyway if you get past it. But I do think, in my experience, it's really handy to have someone there with some authority. And when I say uniformed, I mean, uniforms have evolved a lot with regard to law enforcement people. Both of these guys are in uniform, I would say, right now. They're not wearing traditional police garb. But that's what I mean. Somebody that's got something like that would command some authority in the courtroom. I was telling these guys earlier when we were talking, my timing on this isn't great from a perspective of demonstrating need, because when we went into the COVID situation, we weren't even, you guys, I mean, the courthouse was basically closed. We weren't holding court other than some stuff by Zoom. And then I thought, when I brought this up at the budget hearing, I thought, well, we're kind of past the COVID stuff and we're going to get rocking and rolling again. And of course, now here we are. We just imposed a mask requirement upstairs again a couple weeks ago, and do a lot more by Zoom again. But at some point in time, we will be past this, and we'll be holding court again. And we were talking out there, the stuff that juvenile court days are huge court days. And those are the ones that are the most difficult to do by Zoom, because if you've got a criminal docket, you could have a number of cases and just let everybody into the meeting and get to them when you get to them. Juvenile stuff is confidential, so you have to only let in the people for that individual case and the social workers for that case, and it's very difficult. And all of us judges, when we talked about it, just couldn't wait to get back to getting everybody here for juvenile. So we will be back at some point to big dockets, big juvenile, big domestic, and people get the most angry at domestic. I think the most actual violence that occurs in courthouses, in courtrooms, I should say, is from domestic cases. Yeah, criminal, somebody may try to run away or they may get mouthy, but domestic is where somebody shoots somebody. So, okay, I'll cut to the chase. I couldn't, in my mind, justify saying we need to have somebody here all the time, at all. And that's where I settled on 20 hours. Now, Steve is going to suggest some differences with that, and I understand where he's coming from, but 20 hours was just a number that seemed to me we could make use of and that we could schedule during the course of a month and not waste time. Can't promise you that we won't have a big old trial schedule, and well, that they won't have a big old trial schedule that will settle or whatever, and then you got somebody scheduled to be air security and there's not much going on. It's inevitable that will happen, which is why I think it would be good if the person could be empowered to do the whole courthouse, not just be confined to the 3rd floor. Questions?
The question I have, Judge, I mean, we're in a changing times with Zooms come in this last year pretty big and stuff like that. Do you foresee or see any other state or county running the court systems different, where maybe everybody goes to a central location for a court, maybe Junction City? That's quite a ways, but
in this district, if you really wanted to pick a capital, it would be Harrington. Because Harrington is right in the middle of everywhere. Yeah. From Marion to Harrington, Council Grove to Harrington, Abilene to Harrington. It's about 25 miles every direction. I don't see that happening. You'd be what you would do there is you'd be making sure that everybody's inconvenienced. So logically, you'd be right, Randy, that if you're gonna go anywhere, you'd go to the big population, well, the population of Gary County is not that high, but the caseload's certainly higher.
Mhm.
I don't see that happening anytime soon, no, I don't. There has been talk about expanding the size of judicial districts. Right now there are 31 of them, but even if you did that, it wouldn't really impact on how many courthouses you have within them. And believe it or not, this county would be considered busy as all get out compared to a lot of the counties in the western third of the state. I mean, there's counties out there with 2,000 people in the whole county. They just have very, very few cases. So it'll be a long time before I think it's an issue here. And as far as the Zoom stuff, the Supreme Court has been encouraging encourages the use of Zoom when appropriate, but I don't know any judge or Supreme Court justice that would argue the fact that if you're having contested matters where you know, you've got party A testifying against party B, and there's witnesses, there's evidence, you got to do that in person. I mean, it's the other way is just not the same.
Thank you. I just wondered what the future may hold.
Good, I hear to ask a question.
Nope,
Okay.
nope. Okay. Thank you for getting us started here.
All right. I'm gonna take your seat.
That's certainly fine.
Hello, morning.
Morning. Morning. My name's Steve Davis. I currently run the security for Dickinson County Courthouse. It's currently being done at the fairgrounds at Sterile Hall. If you've ever been in Abilene at Sterile Hall, that's strictly just the courtroom. I spent the last 18 years with the Dickinson County Sheriff's Department. Retired as a sergeant there, and took over the courthouse security in March. Prior to that, I spent 20 years in the Army. The reason Dickinson County decided to go to security was a couple of years ago they had individuals came into the courtroom or courthouse that one had a knife and he brandished it, and a couple other instances with people that were mentally challenged. And so they decided to go to get security. Dickinson County funnels their security through one location. There's a metal detector, and we have wands that we wand them with. I don't know that that's going to be applicable here. I think the judge is right on track with a temporary, you know, minimal hours weekly, security presence, obtaining a wand for, like, say, courtroom proceedings, so that people don't show up in court with guns. We had 2 individuals just last week in Dickinson County came to the courthouse with guns on. And, well, one was concealed, and they were sent back to their vehicles with those. If we hadn't had security, who knows? It's not a matter of if it's going to happen somewhere, it's a matter of when. We've gone through this same thing in law enforcement with active shooters. Who would have thought we'd had people shooting up our schools? And look at it now, you know. So the proposal that I sent down, I was asked to send a proposal down. We can be somewhat flexible, as in SD security, with the hours, but it's keep in mind on the cost and keep in mind on the running it is that I'm trying to hire people to work in security on a part-time basis with only a month's notice on their schedule. And I'm competing with this gentleman over here, the sheriff, to try to find people to work, and competing with everybody else trying to find qualified people that do not have any kind of criminal backgrounds at all. Currently, I've contacted Chris Mercer and 2 other individuals that are willing to do that here on a part-time basis. And so it's a plus because they're all certified officers. which is good for you guys because, and good for me, because they know what they can and can't do. I go through Smart Insurance Company in Abilene and have $1 million liability policy that not only covers SD security, Dickinson County's involved in that. It covers them too. And we can do the same thing here. It would cover SD security, these guys, and Marion County, if we had an incident that we were found liable for. So,
Does all of your workers carry weapons?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I have a deputy in Dickinson County that's an NRA certified instructor, and we will qualify them with that. There is no state qualification, but I've got one. So these guys here are already qualified with their agencies, so I would just get a copy of theirs. I'm sure you got a million questions, so go ahead.
That's, like I said, that's what started this. But through the years, when things happens in courthouses, we've looked at shutting this down. Now, when we was in COVID, we shut it down to the bottom door where the stairs was down here. I don't know, I didn't hear too many complaints. To get it down to a focus to a door, where we've got one up here, one there, and then one back here. We've got 3 other doors besides, we've got 4 exit doors, and in and out. Well, three for the public and 1 for the custodians and workers. So that didn't seem to slow things down. So I really don't have no problem if we needed to get down to that myself. It's been done before. So.
It would be hard on a part-time basis because you'd have times when you
Yep.
have it and you
Yeah.
don't have it.
Yeah. Wish you could do it today.
Yeah. Of course, everything's subject to change.
Yeah.
I mean, there may come a time where you consider what Dickinson County does and they do full-time. It's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Security.
I do know we had a high-profile case here where we had in the city of Peabody, had a person kill another person, and at that time, Judge Powers wasn't even here then, I don't believe, at that time, when that happened, 79,
I was in school.
yeah, I was gonna say.
You were probably an adult then.
79, what was it, 79, no, what was 79? 80s, wasn't it? Yeah, a little later than that, 85, 6, 7, somewhere in there.
Is this a kidnapping thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I do know it was a high-profile case then, and I know there's a lot of people here because just the public, I didn't attend, but there was a lot of people here because it was a big family down in Peabody that was showing up too, so. Don't know whether that would make a difference, you know, high-profile case might make a difference sometime, something like that. So,
Well, there may be a case in the courtroom where you need 1-to-1
yeah.
security. Or you may need security plus law enforcement. You never know. How do I say this? We can be flexible, if that's the right word.
Open it up to the rest of the commission. Any questions? Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
I guess you've had a chance to look at the court floor and the situation up there. How would you handle people coming into that floor? Because obviously there's an elevator, there's the stairs, there's multiple access points. Would you try to have a central point where everybody coming on the floor, or looking at it, what's your opinion?
Are you referring to the courtroom?
Well, I would almost say the whole floor. I mean, I'm guessing the judge is looking more at the courtroom itself specifically. And I guess I'll open up the question then, is there a need for security for the whole floor, or is it really focused more on the courtroom?
I would say both. It's the courtroom when they have something
Sure.
going on, or they've scheduled a jury trial or something to that effect.
Exactly.
But you guys may have an event within the courthouse that is gonna draw some people here, and you may wanna utilize security for that. You know, and you merely just kind of funnel them, and you leave that up to your security person or your security expert. Because in 18 years in law enforcement, I can tell you, I can kind of look at some people and kind of say, hey, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna watch that one. Huh?
Yeah. Or this is one that I might need to ask, are you carrying anything? Are you, and you have a wand, you can wand them to double check. I think, well, I know this to be factual, don't think it. 3 years ago when Dickinson County decided to do security, it was and I was in a couple of those commission meetings because I was still a law enforcement officer at that point, and there was a lot of concern with some of the commissioners, a lot of concern with the crowd about, well, why do we need to do that? Why do we need to do that? It's Dickinson County. And now it's not. People love it. It's they've gotten used to it. They like it. You still get the grumbles from the old timers that come in and don't want to take the pliers off their belt. You know what I mean? I get it. And every farmer has a pocket knife. If he doesn't, he's not a real. You know what I mean? It's just the old courthouse before the refurbishing that's going on now. There were boxes on the wall with keys, and the guns and knives could be secured in the box. They were given a key with a number on it, and when they exited, they could get their stuff and leave. I don't think that would work here on a temporary deal, but I know, change is always tough.
If I could, David.
Yes.
Yes, in the courtroom is what I'm kind of focused on. It doesn't mean there aren't other legitimate concerns that other people have, but there are times that, and it's not uncommon that we're in the courtroom and we've got a bunch of people waiting in the hallway, and you can have parties who are all charged with something from a similar event who, you got me into this or whatever. You can think of the deals, and you'll hear a disturbance out there. And it would be nice to be able to not have to say anything because you've got a security officer in the courtroom. They're here. They're going to go see what's going on. I'm sending Anita Svoboda out there. The clerk in the courtroom at the time. All she can really do is come running back in and say we're going to call the sheriff, versus somebody who could maybe calm it down or deal with it. And just for what it's worth, I think it was 2 weeks ago, could have been 3, late in the day, we're running court, and our court services officer, it's female, whether that's relevant to or not, I don't know, but it's factual, advised me that someone had been calling the court offices, asking by name whether she was the CSO there that day. Was she in that day? What time did she get off work? Nothing ended up happening, but I thought it was very concerning. And had we had a security officer there, that person would have, in my opinion, should have made sure to keep track of her and walked her to her car when they got done with the day, that sort of thing.
I guess that's where I'm kind of going with the line of questioning, is opening the focus from maybe the courtroom to some of your other offices.
What I just described could have been the county appraiser's office.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've talked with Chris Mercer to my left here, who's one of the guys that's going to be doing this, and we've already had conversations about not just the courtroom, but going around to the different, because like I told him, I said, I'm not that familiar with Marion County Court, but I guarantee you all the offices aren't in this building. There's county entities, and I said, I said, I wouldn't have a problem if you, let's say that you went down and just walked through Road and Bridge one day, just let them know who you are, because there's other offices within this building, not just the courtroom.
I don't know whether anybody watched Channel 12 this last Friday evening, but the same issue that's going to be coming up here probably one of these days, another mask issue again. And that was in front of the Sedgwick County Commission, and they have one person, and he said, I will be there on your front yards with bullhorns and stuff this weekend, and that fired up the two of the commissioners from Sedgwick County, and he said, officer, would you please move this person and take them out? So that happens just this Friday night, last Friday in Wichita, when they was talking about the mask issue, so. And we have some people, it's a pretty touchy issue. I mean, it's both sides, both ways, so.
And the other thing you run into is it is extremely difficult for the sheriff to keep people hired, number one. You know what I mean? It's that way everywhere. I mean, every department across the board is short personnel because of what's going on in the world today. Who would want to be a cop? I mean, so it's tough to put that burden on your law enforcement when they're already tasked to death now. And or some event happens in the county that they need all their personnel to be on that scene. You know, then you don't have security here because you relied on that one guy. Well, he happens to be the guy that's your evidence tech. So it's tough. It's tough to find, it's tough to task them to do it when they don't have the personnel to do it.
Any other questions by the
So
commission?
you'd mentioned that your officers are NRA certified with weapons. Is that an ongoing process, or you just get them certified once?
No, we do it once a year,
Once
every
a year.
6 months.
Okay.
And like I said, with these three gentlemen, they're already certified law enforcement officers, so I would merely just ask them to get a copy of their range certification so that I could keep it on file. There is no state requirement, but that's my personal, I would want that. You know what I mean? If you're gonna carry, you need to know how to shoot it.
Yeah, there just needs to be some ongoing
Right.
training.
And really,
Any
that's
officer.
probably not enough, once every 6 months. But doesn't preclude, you know, those guys from keep shooting on their own, or, you know, we do it more than once, it's just a matter of getting together. But ammo is so hard to find right now.
I know. I think Rob's got the corner on all that.
Got the reloader.
Eddie gets a discount, I think.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
What about, you know, you said you got 3 people now, but what if you need to hire, maybe Mike Parrish, since he's retired, he's looking for a part-time job?
I've already offered him a job,
Or,
but
you know, say I'm retired too.
he declined it, so. Oh,
I mean, can you train those people easily?
No, I can't be trained.
You're not that old.
I
I'm
tried.
just looking for the future. you know.
I try to personally, and I don't take this the wrong way, but I try to go after retired law
I
enforcement
know,
if
but
they're there.
if they're not
Right.
available.
If
what
it's
do we
someone
do?
that has no training at all in security, then it'd be, yeah, we'd have to train them. You know, and then they wouldn't be put in there by themselves. They'd be sort of like what we do with law enforcement. We have a field training officer that a new guy gets trained by the field training officer.
Some days you have a big trial, you might need two bodies, you know.
I would anticipate that could happen. You know, you'd need more than one.
You mentioned military too, right? Retired military?
Mhm. Retired military, retired law
One of
enforcement.
those around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I have a question. At Dickinson County, who is your direct supervisor, you know, I mean, as far as the courthouse goes?
And I'm glad you mentioned that. My direct supervisor is Brad Hahn. Dickinson County has a director of the courthouse. And prior to coming down here, Brad gave me several of his business cards, and I'll give you those, and he said, call him if you got a question about how it runs up there, how they like it. I mean, he's not gonna tell you anything, I mean, he's gonna tell you the
Pretty
truth.
honest, yes.
Yeah, and
So you.
that's who I report to.
So it's not the administrator, it's the.
He is the
He's the administrator.
He's administrator.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that.
He handles the stuff that you guys are having to handle because, and it's tough. You know, some of the decisions you gotta make in different departments, he takes care of that. But I brought his business card. I also brought a copy of my contract with Dickinson County and a contract for you guys if you wanna look at it. And that way, if you have any questions, you know, because your county counselors probably want to make sure everything's legal if you did it, you know.
Now, since you've talked about contract, and I think the question come up when we first looked at this was, what happens if Judge Powers stays in office and he comes back and overruns the courtroom and we have to use an officer quite a bit more, who supports the rest of the budget. Well, we budget for so many hours, but there's an overrun. So with that being said, I'd like to know what happens in Dickinson County. Do you have a full-time officer 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week position contract, or do you have a part-time up there?
2 full-time.
2 full-time officers. Okay.
Yeah. And I also have a part-time guy hired, you know, that fills in.
Dickinson is, I mean, they're at the, you don't get in the building without going through.
And I mean, if, to make you feel better, it would be nice that you knew that everybody walked in this building and walked through a metal detector and got wanded and all that, but realistically, you don't want to hear the headache.
But Brad comes from your field, so
He does.
that's his background.
Well, yeah, on the previous 3 incidents has created that. And Gary County has been doing it for years, and Saline County does it on their courtrooms. So if it's not already here, it's coming.
Yeah.
But we run 2 full-time down there, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Obviously, SD security gets, for holidays, we're just off. There's no charge to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's not like if the courthouse is closed, we still get paid now. We get paid for the hours we work.
I don't know, I know I didn't mention it, Steve kind of did, but what we had talked about was, and this would be subject to, it could be easily changed if, for instance, Tina or any department head said, well, there's these certain times of the year that I would really like to have security available to our office, whether the court thinks they're necessary or not, so that can be changed. But what we talked about was working out earlier I referenced 20 hours, and Steve points out, well, it's kind of hard. That means you'd be getting 2 people for 2 full days, and then getting somebody to come in and do a half day. And so it might make more sense just to do it 24 hours and have 3 days. And I said, and we could do this. We could say on the 1st of February, here's when we want somebody in March. And we could say on the 1st of March, here's when we want somebody in April. I mean, that's not the best, but we at least know what's scheduled on those days. And if something goes out, it just goes out, and we used a day we probably didn't need. But I don't know any other way to do that.
Yeah, these guys the guys that I've talked to, Chris and the other 2 guys, they're willing to be as flexible as they possibly can, but like I talked to the judge earlier, it's, if at all, we could get a month out on when you need us, because it's gonna be a nightmare for me to try to call him up and say, hey, Monday they need you and then they need you again Thursday for something, and it's Sunday when I call it. You know what I mean? Right. So but we also know that there's going to be sometimes stuff that comes up that we don't get that month notice, but that's why we were flexible.
So say there's a sick day or something, I mean, would you rotate somebody down from Dickinson County to fill in?
If all 3 of them can't do it, yes. We've talked about that already too. I'll come down and do it. You know, so.
Are there any more questions by the commission?
Well, just to follow up on, Randy made a good point of possibility of overlapping between the courtroom security and courthouse security, which again would help with the flexibility of when court is scheduled. You know, that I'm sure it isn't just exactly 19.5 hours every week on the dot.
Exactly right.
You're up and down, up and down, up and down. Some weeks are incredibly busy, others are maybe quiet. But if we can kind of help that flow with the county and having other projects, something comes up, like a few years ago, appraiser was the hot spot. Mm-hmm. It was pretty scary being an appraiser at that time. It's been quiet for a long time, but who's to say, any other department or have some other
Well,
type opportunities.
And rest assured, Chris and I have already talked about that. Obviously, the judge may not need, he may not, or the judge they're going to be there, he may not need anybody for a particular week.
Sure.
Right. And Chris and I have already talked about, that's what I was talking about, go around to the different offices,
Yeah.
walk around the building, let the ladies know who you are.
Yeah.
Give them your phone number, give them a business card, whatever. That way they know there's some security, or they know, like if we was to call the county clerk, I think Tina, and say, you know, we need security up, and you know what I mean, she knows how to get him, get a hold of him or someone.
And I'm a big believer in presence.
Right.
You know, if someone sees a patrol car in the community, just, you know, on routine, if someone sees an officer in the building, I think presence goes a long way toward prevention.
Well, and we're not gonna tell them when we're working our 20 hours.
Well, yeah, we're not gonna publish that schedule.
No.
That
way they
presence
think-
will be
that way they
seen.
think somebody's there all the time.
When they call up, you can give them the hour.
Well,
An
presence-
article in the paper, there will be security in the courthouse next week. But not the week
Nobody
after.
for this brief.
Presence is a deterrent.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's worked well. for sure.
Quite, you know, like, sometimes, like next week, we're having a zoning meeting at night. I mean, somebody might hang out in the hallway then, and on an election night, you know, so far it's been
Well,
quiet.
you speak of election nights, like in Dickinson County, there's, I'm sure they do it here too, but the early voting, they have it open from like 8 to 12 or 8 to 1 on a Saturday for the folks that can't get out on Saturdays. We do security for that. You know,
We do it for 2 weeks here at least.
well, no, they do early voting at the courthouse also, but there's a couple of Saturdays that they open up the courthouse for that. And so security was there for that, you know. It says in the contract that I'm gonna give your county counselor, it says in there that we are, we can work outside that 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, based on if we
On
know,
need- on
a
need.
request, yeah.
You're exactly right. Some of those,
Yes.
after our meetings do.
Long story short, we work by the hour. So, yeah. It's just a matter if I know, elections would be easy. We know when that's coming up. You know what I mean? So I can call Chris and say, hey, we gotta have somebody for Saturday, 8 to 5. And he'll be like, okay, we got it, you know, so.
Any other questions?
Does Tina have anything? Thoughts? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's just, I think figuring out who's in charge always of requesting, you know, and it needs to be, I guess then it would be working with district court to see if there are any additional hours available for the courthouse. I mean, I don't know how.
I would need a point of contact, just one person to talk to and say, okay, I need the schedule, here's my email. If that person needed additional security for something, that's the person I would talk to about, you know, that kind of stuff.
You know, honestly, Tina, I'm a little bit of a control freak. And I don't know that the new judge coming in, I mean, you know, I know it's gonna be one of 3 people, but I don't know which one's gonna be. Whether they even wanna be involved in it. I think once a system is set up, that system logically, if you had a court administrator, a county administrator, we run it through the county administrator. And if not, it defaults to the county clerk like it does everywhere else. It doesn't really default to you. You would be the next logical step, I think. Because if you're gonna have requests from the commissioners to have somebody at the planning and zoning meeting at, 5 o'clock on Thursday or whatever, and you're gonna have requests from the court, you're gonna have requests from, well, of course you are elections, but anyway, somebody would need to kind of coordinate that and stay within the allotted amount of hours that county's willing to pay and so on.
That's my only concern, is making sure that we have something like that in place.
I mean, you understand why, I think you would understand why the proposal indicated a minimum of monthly. Because it would just be impossible for me to try to retain someone. But there also may be events where there's simultaneous things, where you may need this second. something going on within the county, but there's also a court case going on or a jury trial.
We didn't have anything in this year's budget for security.
No.
Our new budget is first of the year. Is there, and I haven't even looked at grand total, what your proposal would cost per month for the rest of the year, so I haven't looked at that to see what.
Well, if you go with the minimum number of hours, it comes to just under 50,000 for the year if you're
Yeah.
always at the minimum, which we wouldn't be.
That was for a
necessarily.
full year.
For a full year, with one person only.
So we could.
So if you look at how many months we have
Usually under
left.
25,000 for the rest of the year.
I don't think so.
Good. In Dickinson County, do you ever call on the sheriff's department to help you once in a while? To get a shorter person or
No.
have to stand by,
Well, I have people lined up for work, and the sheriff's department wouldn't have the personnel to come sit. We have called them if the judge or a judge has reprimanded them to go to jail. We will detain them and call the sheriff's department to come transport them. But we haven't, no.
You would have to develop that sort of a system with the sheriff to, in case you do have the person that becomes rowdy outside, how you're gonna handle it.
We're gonna call 911.
Is there anything against the rules, say, our situation is different than other places where you could detain them and take them across the street rather than, is there a line there that I don't know about?
Well, that would be a legal question, you'd have to ask them. But the thing is that if we're in the courthouse performing security, there's two sides to that coin. Are we securing the courthouse by detaining this guy? Yes, we are. If the judge tells us to do anything, did he not just make us a bailiff? In my opinion, yes, he did. If he tells us to, and this has happened in Dickinson County, the judges have asked us to escort people out to their cars. When you have a protection order issue, domestic issue, which we do it all the time. I believe that under the law, and the judge would be more to, if he requests that and he's in the middle of a court case and he requests security to do anything, I think everyone, when the county council is shaking his head up and down, everyone is fine, we're protected.
I will tell you, I would not be comfortable in just the standard situation. There's always exceptions. But and we do PFAs and PFSs upstairs all the time, and it's very, very common. You have both sides there, they get heated there. What I do is I tell one side, remain sitting in your chair, now you leave, come out your car, we're done. And then I wait and hope that they've got enough time to get out of the building before they let this one go. But if this one stops, goes to the bathroom, it would be easier, much easier, just say, could you escort this person out? But as far as saying, take this person to the jail, I would not be real comfortable doing that. Not in the normal course of action, because they're not here as certified law enforcement officers. They may be certified law enforcement officers, but they're not here acting as certified law enforcement officers. They're security, and I would want them to contact, or the court would contact the sheriff, but just keep these people here until the sheriff gets here. But
it would kind of cross boundaries as far as whose authority they are actually taking this person into custody under. Are they taking it under the sheriff's office authority, which they are not sheriff's office, or are they taking it under the court order authority? So there's a couple of boundaries there that when you start detaining people that would be an issue.
I'd be real comfortable with the detention, the transportation, even though I recognize we're just talking walk across the street.
Well,
is,
yeah, and the only reason why I'm bringing it up is just busy all the time. And so how long does this person be detained? How long are you having to deal with this person? Because they are
Typically, we have somebody in that building that could come over. I mean, that's what we do now. When the court calls and says there's somebody over here that we just sentenced for something, and typically either Monday through Friday we have somebody typically in that building. Not always, but
didn't want to get down the road and now. we can't get them transferred over, we need to invest all this money in a holding area.
No, I don't think that would happen, Jonah. There are a couple, you got some options. First of all, Rob's right. When we've called over, a lot of times it's Jim Feldmeyer. And Jim's a big strapping kid, and generally if he says come along, they say go along. If it's somebody that appears to be, that we have some reason to believe is dangerous, I mean, I guess we would let them know that and they would react accordingly. But we're sitting right here in Marion, and there's a Marion Police Department that should have somebody on duty. There's nothing that prevents them from helping out in that circumstance. We do at Counsel Grove all the time. I mean, there's options there. Not to mention, you know, there's usually, if you needed a sheriff's deputy, unless there's something going on way off in one corner of the county, there's somebody within 10, 15 minutes of being here.
And I will tell you this, in Dickinson County where we do the security, where they walk in at, we have a panic button. We have a little button that is programmed to go to dispatch. We just set it there. Doesn't preclude a security officer here from having one in his pocket. If you run into that situation, he hits the button and notifies dispatch. And then the sheriff or the police chief, they get that dispatch to send an officer up to the courthouse. And no words had to be spoken, no phone had to be called, had to be made. We do that there. And as well, they've actually done that with some, it's temporary right now because of the renovation of the courthouse, but like we've got county entities strung all over the place in town to do their business. And so they've got a panic button, most of them, so that if they, because we can't have security at every single place.
Anybody in the room have any questions?
Just one last thing.
Yes.
Sheriff, if you have any comments or like to chip in on your opinion or thoughts on the proposal?
No, I see the need, especially in the court proceedings. It would be nice to have somebody throughout the courthouse from time to time, as I'm headed. And he's correct, the ability of my office to staff that would take at least 2 full-time officers to do it on a Monday through Friday basis. We struggle to find qualified persons with applications now. Right now we're doing well, but if I put out the bid for 2 more, it might be a while before the 2 qualified would be on board. And I think the separation for some private entity to do the security at 20 hours a week would be much better from a private source than my source.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not getting into a turf for any other complications we don't think about.
No, we would just, we have to differentiate between, are they working under the guise of law enforcement for the sheriff's office or under the guise of private security?
Sure.
For liability and legal purposes, that's where the rub would come if an event happened or occurred, and I would want to make sure that stays 2 separate entities.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for a very worthwhile presentation.
And I'll leave you a copy of the contract I have with Dickinson County. Brad had no problem with me leaving a copy of that, and I'll leave it with you. And as far as like if you wanted to do it immediately or after the first of the year, I was just doing some quick figuring, Tina. It's like $3,600 a month. Is that correct?
I didn't figure by the money.
Well, if you
Probably.
take the hourly rate times the minimum hours for a year is less than 50.
Right, it's 49 something,
Okay.
I think, if you look at 52 weeks.
So
Okay, we're getting here at the end of August, so September probably, like, start the 1st of October, if that would have that way you could have your officers' dates and stuff. And
I've gotta get them uniforms and,
Yeah.
all that,
Yeah, and also we'd have to have the judge from the upstairs give some sort of schedule what they want.
That can absolutely be done. I mean, Anita could do that now. And I can tell you that I'm shocked that you're even talking about maybe implementing anything this year. But in terms of that, 2 big trials are gonna take up over 2 full weeks of November upstairs.
Of November. So if we would get in geared up to start October, we should have things pretty much in
Yeah.
place for that.
It'd be good to have them at least, so that they'd be ready to go.
To be in place for November.
Only reason I even mentioned that, Judge, because you've yapped at me too much already, so.
I'm like a rat terrier.
No.
Waited till the week after you retired.
By the way, as long as we're still having and we do, the Sterile Hall there, and it's on the Dickens County Fairgrounds, as long as we're out there, you guys, we're offering the free snow cones to the winner of each case, so.
Well, like I said, we can't make no decisions in this meeting. We can discuss it some more or put it on the agenda to discuss it and make a decision. And so that's where we're at as of right now. And Rob, I thank you for being here too, because you've been after us here. And when we went for courthouse security, or courtroom security, we also looked at courthouse security too. So, and that's something that I still want to look at some point in time for the courthouse security too. So,
Well, I appreciate that, and I just, not to sound like I'm trying to push anything, but because I'm not.
right.
But keep in mind, if we start 1 October,
Mhm.
that's great. I got the guys lined up. If we go till the first of the year, it's gonna be tough keeping these guys interested in trying to do this. Because I think they went down this road a time or two before,
Yeah.
so, but I appreciate it.
I will make sure that we get a decision here on what we're going to do.
No pressure.
If for any reason you guys decide, and I'm not advocating this, I'm definitely not advocating this, but if you decided, you know what, we're gonna get out ahead of things and we're gonna go to one entrance and we're gonna screen everybody, that, just what was discussed before, the physical layout of the courthouse in Gary County is very, very, very similar to this one. It's not set up for that sort of thing. They made it happen because they wanted to make it happen. And they are now building a little building off to the side that will be the security entrance, and then we'll have a hallway into the rest of the building. But if you wanted to see how to do it on a short-term basis, they've got it doing it right now. But it's
And Dickinson County's doing, if you've been through Abilene, you've seen the renovation that they've done. There's a ramp entrance in the center south side that is the new entrance. That's where security will be there, and then people will be exiting from another location.
That's the other thing, don't do. Gary County, they screened you to get in, but then they left all the other doors were still functional doors, so you could exit anywhere. So you could say, Dave, wait outside there with a gun, I'm gonna go in, and open the door, you have everything. That was not a good plan.
It's not secure.
No. Thank you guys.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
You have to leave, Chris.
I can't stay?
No.
We'll call over and have somebody escort that guy out. Well, gentlemen, I think that's probably answered some of your questions that you had. And would you like to put it on the agenda today or next week, or when would you like to put it on the agenda or have if you have any discussion right now?
Next week?
You could probably do it a little later than the first week of September.
I think, I'd like just to iron out one thing. We've don't have an administrator, so does this role fall on Tina?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Would
I
have to
can't
at this
think of
point.
someone else that would be more appropriate, so.
Coordinating with the courtroom upstairs.
Just,
Yeah.
Another thing that gets thrown on you, and I just making sure that.
I wouldn't put that with any other office in the building, I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, I think we need to move on and talk about the American Rescue Plan a little bit.
Okay.
That's kind of,
Okay,
got 30 minutes left.
okay. Well, today's 23rd, you wanna put it on the 31st and have a decision, or do you want to?
Next week, the following week for me.
You
I
know,
won't be here very long, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
I'll approve the bills and then I'll have to leave.
Okay. All righty.
That job getting in the way, ain't it?
It's another job. It's another job I'm not gonna disclose at this part.
Well, September,
So in September, you're not meeting until the 7th
Seventh.
unless you hold a special
Okay.
meeting this first week, so. And that happens to be your budget hearing day. And
the day
I'm
that we go
gonna,
and drive to wherever that evening.
right, yep.
Particularly.
I mean, do you feel like you're ready to make a decision today? Or you wanna add it to your today's agenda, or?
yeah, that's why I'm asking.
But
Isn't
then,
that-
I get
but
one
pending
nod.
a
Are we
contract.
still having road and bridge?
Roan, I don't know if I have any written material, but Bryce is not gonna be here. He emailed and said he's not gonna be here.
Put it in for 1 o'clock.
Okay. And does anybody have a problem with that? I mean, I'll honor anybody's decision if they wanna hold off a week. I don't wanna jump into
I
things.
think most of us has probably already made our mind up.
I know a couple of you have. But I would honor the decision, to hold off a week if somebody has something they'd like to, I mean, that's our prerogative right now.
What do we got in the budget for next year?
We put 25,000 in the budget for
So-
next year.
So we got a shortage even for next year.
Right.
Right.
It's a start. Just a start.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Try for 6 months, we'll see you.
No, it's not worth
It's
it.
not a start.
So there's like you just said, there's a shortage next year. This here would probably come out of general or sales tax.
Well, I'm gonna ask, is there a possibility coming out of the American Rescue Plan?
No, I don't think you could take a security
Security.
personnel out of, I don't think that you
A
probably could
security
tie that to.
system?
The security system might.
No, the
fall
only
into
thing
play.
that I think that you might be able to tie back to that would be if you're doing access control, because you need to do health
Oh,
screenings
okay,
when you
that's
come
how
in
the
the
security,
building. So
if we get control.
if you did access control and
Okay.
cameras,
Okay,
you know, to
Gotcha.
extend your people's capabilities of remotely,
okay,
you know,
understood.
I don't think
But
it-
it would be hard to tie the personnel security to that, wouldn't it?
yes, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that you could probably do that.
So it's back, like Randy said, it'd be sales tax.
Yes, sir.
Right, so do you want me to, okay, you just let me know if you want, what you want me to do.
1
here with
o'clock.
this calendar.
I'm asking, or should we put it off a week? Till the,
I'm ready today.
Dave,
Fine.
I'm giving you privilege, if you want to wait, that's fine, no problem.
No, it's
Got it.
just whatever, just ask them, don't let it die. So if it's not ready, just let it ride to the next week.
Okay.
That's all.
I think, let's just talk about if it's 6 months down the road, should we review it 6 months down the road? I mean, so 3 months down the road, review it. Dave said 6 months and try it. I mean, we got 25,000, so, but I'm just saying, we're gonna have to prepare for the budget next year too. And what you're saying is where I'm picking up on, Jonah, is you wanna have money for it, we don't want it to die next year because of lack of funds.
We could call the security quarterly basis or something for also for some type of update.
Okay, yeah, you could, yeah.
Just so we kind of know what's going on and they've
Keep a
seen,
good
seen
relationship.
something that
Yeah.
we've missed.
Keep a good relationship with them is what I
I
would
mean,
think.
if we started the contract with them on October
Okay.
1st, call them back in on January 1st to kind of give us a rundown of how it's going, what's been said.
We'll have dinner to think about it, but let's put it on, Tim would put it on at 1 o'clock. Okay, American Rescue, or, yeah, ARP money.
So access controls. Right?
Access, yeah, there you go.
Already got that one out of the way.
Yeah, we got some of
We'll
it.
put that on.
already.
Yeah. So, Tina, lead me straight, or lead me down the road here.
Well, I wasn't really sure what kind of information you wanted, for today. We do have a report, an interim report that's due the end of this month, and our report, it will be a zero report because we've we've spent none of the funds, because you hadn't made any decisions as far as what you want to do. I'm not sure what you're.
Well, we know we can't use it for personnel. We know we can't.
Well, that's
use
not
it-
necessarily true.
Can't use it
You
for
can
roads.
use it for, there are some qualified personnel expenses that has to tie to COVID.
Right.
And there is a calculation that you can utilize it for lost revenue for the county. And so one question that I have is, do you want me to attempt to make that calculation with our interim report? Because I believe that we have to do it for this August report. Because lost county revenue, then if you are able to show that through their calculation, then those funds can be applied anywhere within the county budget. So we could use it in the road and bridge fund, or we could use it anywhere,
Be helpful, but boy, that's where do you start?
Where did we lose money at though?
Well, that's just it. I would have to
Yeah.
calculate that.
Have
Yeah.
to dig for it too.
So,
Is this American Rescue, is it still COVID related?
yes. It is COVID related. It is for, I didn't bring all that. This is, just one second. I've got my folder here. And I've only sat in on 1 or 2 calls, and there's calls every week, so I haven't sat in on the whole thing.
Yeah, I've
That's one
listened to
reason.
a couple of them, they don't tell you nothing.
That's one, right, so that's.
We're
kind
still
of-
waiting to see. We're
Yeah.
still waiting to see.
Just say you gotta fill out the forms and go do this, and then do the same thing every week.
Right,
I
so that's
listened
one
to-
reason that I'm, and that's one reason I'm also really glad that you went ahead and hired Swindle, James, and Harkin Lloyd, because they're keeping up on all the details of what you can do, what you can't do. And we already had this scheduled, and you just hired them last week, so I didn't have them come or be available for this particular meeting. But I have asked them for kind of ideas of what other counties are utilizing funds for. Some other counties are allowing, if larger counties are allowing, they're holding work groups or having listening sessions, and it depends on how involved you want to let the public be in figuring out what you want to use the money for. It can be used for broadband. However, the state of Kansas has their own pot of money for broadband. It can be used for infrastructure, and in cities, that includes water. Well, and the county, that can include water infrastructure.
Well, it would be so neat if 2 cities here, and I'm talking the largest 2 cities in the county of Marion, they've looked at it before, and we have 2 water plants, we have, it's just a shame that we have that. I mean, I understand that's maybe a moneymaker for both of them, I'm not gonna say that, because it is. But, we did have one major deal, but now we have, so we look around at our other cities, the next third largest buys from one of the 2, and that's been we was forced to go that way. state made us, they come back and made us go to Hillsborough, Kansas for not our choice. We voted to go to Newton Rural Water and bring our own rural water line in, but it was denied by the state when the funds come out and made us go to Hillsborough. So, you know, but then you go down to our smaller towns, and I know Burns used to have water problems. I don't know whether they're still do or not, as far as finding water. But is there any towns, other small towns north of even your
Well,
area?
actually, there's two towns in my district, and then over in Dave's district on the rural water. The two towns, Lehigh and Durham, have their own water wells. Those systems were put in the 60s. They have tremendous amount of issues with old lines and rotting lines, and the rural water district came in pretty soon after that, and they're dealing with the same issues. I have heard from several people that I guess have gotten wind that maybe some of this money could be utilized to replace old lines. Now, Ramona's would also be on.
Ramona's on Marion #1, and I
So-
think, did Autumn get a hold of you?
I've got her contact information in the folder.
Yeah, they actually like to drill a new well. They've got high magnesium, water quality issues. So it'd be a water
So,
quality.
you know, and I don't know about any of the other communities. I guess Lincolnville's still on
Wisconsin.
water wells.
Yeah, we tried to do a project with Lincolnville and Lost Springs. 20 inches.
Oh, it's either wells or, yeah.
But getting the whole project off the ground, you're talking.
Oh,
millions.
Yeah,
Lots of-
and
lots
yeah,
of water.
also rural water district #2, which comes from Wells and Mountain Ridge, comes all the way across the central part of the county. East Shore, I know, is on that. A lot of those residents along there.
But maybe a certain amount allotted to a town for replacement
Well,
lines?
yeah, I mean, it's a
That-
possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
the towns each got some too, but.
Right, the cities have their own funds.
Yes.
You can get more grandiose with it if you want to. With that as part of the seed money given, I'm well aware of what Marion County's issues are in a number of areas. You could do a countywide, I've done it, a wholesale water district. Then the funds are available in addition to these, because Department of Ag favors that significantly, and they put a tremendous amount of money aside for a low-interest 20-year loan to develop the infrastructure that all needs to be replaced in all these different settings as part of developing that. And what we did then, the most recent one was Newton, Sedgwick, Halstead, and North Newton. And then we're using Newton's Mission Plant as the treating system, although North Newton has now developed their own. But it simplifies your process tremendously and addresses the issue that Peabody had, because that rural water district that they're buying from buys from Newton. And that was all dovetailed into what we did. And it sounds complex, and I won't say it isn't, but it's not nearly as complex as a lot of people think it is up front, if the parties are all willing. They're all shareholders. And I've spent, right now, we're now 20 years in to the one in Newton that it created. And we're redoing the operating agreement, and I've been redoing that for a year, so that the thing will perpetuate itself for the next 50 years. And it is self-sustaining, and it does create some changes probably in some of the cities and their water costs, no doubt. But it does also create the ability to hold a fairly significant amount of water rights that they'll never on their own get. And as like the rural water district that serves where I own land, that magnesium issue, we didn't think about that. Dad was on that thing when they first started it.
That's right.
And it just pops up. And having a larger entity that can go out and preserve what's needed. And the countywide approach is becoming more popular in eastern Kansas, more so than it had. It's spreading this way. Here, we just took areas. We didn't cross county lines with either of the ones that I've been readily involved in. And there's only about 17 of them, so 17, 18 or so in the state, but they're bigger now, and they do cover a lot of area, something that could also be considered.
I can outright tell you that it shuts if you use the water money to
more or less help fund some of the other things in the city, it shuts that down real quick, like when you buy from somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shuts your cash pocket down.
And what this does, the wholesale system, infrastructure delivery to the meter, master meter at your city, is the wholesale water district. That meter is your city. So they have the ability to adjust their rates as they see fit. That's what most of them find very useful, because they can establish that enterprise fund once again. Yeah. So it has been something that has worked really well.
I had been told, and I found out for sure, but the water treatment plant in Hillsborough was originally designed to take on Mulligan County.
Mm-hmm. I had heard at one point, didn't know what their capacity was, but that thing had originally been
infrastructure, but it was designed to have that infrastructure.
Yeah, and it is doable. And again, they luckily had a larger city that mission plan was pretty well established, and they could create with these modules additional capacity very readily, and a wet well, so that they could take all these different wells and combine, get their nitrate issue addressed each and every day that they commingled in these different sources. And they went, I think we're probably way more than double what the aggregate would have been from all of the cities and entities in it, in terms of the water rights that they have approved us for. You have to prove them up. You go through the vesting process, but they spent 20 years doing that. We're down to the last year of that.
So is that district tended to keep water rates, in your opinion, down? Or are they paying a higher price for water than maybe they were prior?
Two parts to that answer. Did the wholesale water district keep it down? Yes. Did the city of Newton open a golf course and had a little issue when I was mayor with the sand dart or something or other that we were supposedly killing downstream, and have to change the treatment system so that our rates are obscene as far as I'm concerned? Yes. So to answer your question, in terms of the wholesale water district, does that help cut your cost? It does quite a bit. Now, each city can choose from there what they're going to add to that. They have to answer to their constituents.
So if you're in a county, then you're fine.
Yeah. No. It's really
But if you're in the city, yeah.
Yeah, I just, I see, you're talking about the water treatment plant, and I suppose it can treat water from our western county wells also. But I just don't see people in the western part of the county or Tampa area wanting to drink reservoir water.
Well, and that's an issue that the city is, that's a huge issue in our county, that we have cities that are relying solely on the reservoir
Right,
and
yeah.
that water for our water. And
Yes, you're right.
Because the way I understand it, that branch that comes up, that aquifer that comes up, is actually part of the Ogallala.
Yeah, it's the end of the line.
Yeah.
Tiny little finger.
Yeah.
You got a little, about a 1 mile radius.
Mhm.
That's it.
But
Very,
it
very-
historically has been good water.
Oh, the quality of water, Durham hit it, Lehigh hit it.
By Roxbury there, and it's always been good quality.
Most of the maps that show it cut off right at the Marion versus county line.
Yeah.
so I can tell you what the categories are on our report, as far as other things that the funds are approved to be used for, if you would like. I mean, that's probably a simple
Yep.
way. One is for public health, vaccination, testing, contact tracing, et cetera. PPE, medical
Gotta have a roll for
expenses,
this.
those kind of things. Now, public health has gotten a lot of grant money from multiple sources, so I don't know right now. I mean, I think that the board would definitely want to check to see what their needs are, but
I think Deidre's got more money than she can spend.
I think that is
She's having trouble
possibly
spending
the
it.
But
case.
would a building to
House.
house health department qualify?
With a drive-through.
That's something that we can maybe get help figuring out.
And store the trailer.
Yeah.
Because
Also-
trailers, mobile, not vaccines.
Go ahead.
Also mental health services, substance use services, other public health services.
And we're getting some money, I'm gonna have to check with them. Is that this week? That was last week, I don't know. We're getting some money, I think, I don't know whether there's some other. I'm gonna check and see with.
Are you talking about the CDDO?
Yeah.
Okay. The next category on the report is negative economic impacts. Household assistance, food programs, you could do rent, mortgage, utility aid. So you could do direct benefits to citizens, you know, if you wanted to go that way with some of your funds. Small business assistance, if you wanted to do any grants again, but you've already done 2 rounds of grant funding, one with Spark and one with CDBG. So aid to nonprofits, aid to tourism, travel, or hospitality, or other economic industry or impacted industries. Rehiring public sector staff, which I don't think we had anybody laid off because of COVID, so I don't know that would apply to us. The next category is services to disproportionately impacted communities. And so there's like education and early childhood and housing type things you could do. Premium pay for public sector employees. And then private sector, you could do grants to other employers for premium pay for like, if you wanted to. Like, this is similar to what you did for the health department already through another grant, was for people who have been working like that and have never been off, offer additional pay. So you could do that. And then here's the expense category of infrastructure. So we have clean water, centralized wastewater, treatment, collection, conveyance, decentralized wastewater, combined sewer overflows, and their sewer infrastructure, storm water, energy conservation, water conservation. There's others. So they did, and then broadband, last mile projects and other projects. Revenue replacement for the county, which I mentioned. And again, that's one that I will need to know if you want me to do that calculation on this report coming up.
Be nice to get some money under that, because then we can use it for whatever.
Right. I mean, I would think that you would want to, but I don't want to just do it without you all telling me, yes, go ahead. And then there's other, administrative and other is the category. So there's administrative expenses, evaluation and data analysis, transfers to other units of government, and then transfers to non-government. So where any of your county type projects come in would have to be under administrative, and it has to tie to COVID. And so we did talk about, and that one NACO call that I was on the very first time when I kind of gave you a list of things that they had talked about and that would potentially be covered. You'd have to tie that back to COVID. So like your access control, you know, I know we've had a request, or at least somebody has mentioned utilizing funds for a radio tower, like a repeater, or the big radio tower, which is like about $1 million project. I'm gonna check to see if that's even a qualifying expense, because I don't know how you tie that to COVID, and it's not broadband, you know.
You said stormwaters, is that same as floodwaters?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's stormwater systems that
Okay.
you could, it's for clean water projects.
Clean water, wastewater falls in there because that's part of wastewater.
Getting
clean water.
Yep.
Those are the categories that I have on the report, and again, they're all really broad, and I have had to Water District Number 1 is interested in doing some sort of a project. I don't know any cost information or exactly what they're wanting to do. And then,
Where's water? Is that the one you're talking about?
So, west of Durham.
and then there was another one that has contacted us, which is Rural Water District. Let's see, 4 was it? Which is actually McPherson,
West of Hillsborough.
But their wells are in Marion.
but they have,
The towers, one of the towers is west of.
Yeah, 56.
so, I mean, if you did do some clean water things, you'd really want to discuss kind of what you want to do and how you, I mean, I think that you would almost have to have a grant application process for the rural water districts if they wanted to apply for something like that. You'd have to designate a total amount, you know. I mean, that might be a way to do it.
So one thing, the rural water districts don't get an allocation. The cities are all getting allocations.
So as part of what Scott Lloyd's group would be doing for us, if we issued any of that as a grant, would you administer that then for us?
We would probably do a lot of it, but they would be able to help us, like similar to what we did with Spark, where we had, you know, there was a grant application that was developed, and they would probably be able to help, you know, look over those applications and to follow through with making sure we had all the pieces of paperwork that we needed for each one. But I think a lot of that work is gonna have to happen in-house, whether you have additional people, or like hire an additional person like you did when we had Spark. We hired a administrative, just like a,
Administrative assistant,
basically,
Yeah.
yeah, to do some of the paperwork pieces.
fill out the forms.
Right.
Main contact point.
Well, the main contact point would be, well, I guess in that instance, it kind of was a contact point where things were funneled through, but I think if you could tweak that a little bit on this, because it's not as fast moving. You'd have your plan, you'd have a little bit slower moving. We also have one business that has asked, you know, whether any funding could be provided for like an economic impact study of relocating their business or, you know, something like that. And I don't know that these funds would qualify for that, so.
Tina, you might put that list out to us, just an email, so we got it all to look at.
Okay.
Keep our heads up. Any discussion there, what we've heard?
Well, it's gonna be kinda like the Sparks and all the other, it's gonna be hard to find something that qualifies.
I think there are a lot of things that could potentially qualify. It's just going to be figuring out how you want to allocate it and
Priority.
prioritize it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We probably need another one. One of these whiteboards, just put up our priorities.
I did send just an initial question to our, to Swindle James and Hawken Lloyd about, you know, certain things that we have talked about before, whether they would be able to justify being qualified under this. And so I've got that out, and hopefully I'll hear something back on that. And I don't know if you're interested in learning what other similarly situated counties are doing, because he mentioned when he was here that, you know, he would be willing to share kind of some things that others are doing, if that's helpful to you.
We have 2 years.
4 years.
It's overall, the whole process is longer than 4 years, I think,
Yeah.
as far as the final reporting and all of that.
It's the 2-year portion.
Another county bought
I don't really know.
a COVID-based ambulance.
I did also have, so EMS is needing some things, some cots and some different, a power lift system for a couple of ambulances that don't have that right now. So I submitted that as a question, whether, you know, that is for public health potentially. So, we'll see what Swindle Jansen says about that, you know. Also, we have had some expenditures for personnel for COVID leave after Spark money was gone. So the county has paid for some COVID leave and some other kind of expenses out of risk management since the time Spark ended. So if any of those expenses are eligible for reimbursement, I think that it would be a good idea for the county to try to be made whole by those things if that's an option like it was with Spark.
Tell you what, after running them, has helped work on it for probably 8 to 10 years, but power lifts is pretty neat nowadays. I mean, that
Save your back.
saves somebody's back. They're just a nice piece of equipment to put in an ambulance. I've really been impressed with them. So.
But I know you're gonna need more than one additional work
Yeah.
session just for this, but
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe not knowing how much money spent here or there, where the prioritization would be. That's pretty important to me, that way we don't lose track of one of your most important things, get wrapped up in something else, and then you use all your money on that, and then that gets, oh, yeah, we're gonna do that.
Any other, Tina, do you have any other?
well, just the initial list that I had kind of talked about or sent out when we first applied for the funds. Some potential projects that may be considered if they can be appropriately tied to COVID access control, which we've already talked about, and additional cameras to assist with screening. You had talked about commission room technology upgrade to make the virtual meetings better, something like that. Park and Lake, revamp Lake Hall to provide technology for digital attendance for larger meetings. Updated HVAC system for the courthouse, that would potentially qualify because of the improving the air quality. Digitization of public records to provide greater online access for citizens. I had on here election, digital mapping for greater public access and work from home capabilities. Not everything from elections can be done at home, by the way. Business grants.
Can't monitor the polls for all.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, he also, yeah, there are many things you can't do from home. Fire districts, I had put the equipment to increase radio signal for emergency use, which again, I don't know that can be tied to COVID. 2 water districts have requested to be put on the list for funding. County lost revenue, ambulance department, power load system / COTS, and that's $40,000 estimated cost for two units. And again, have not reached out yet to the health department to see if they have needs. And then the last thing I mentioned was direct county expenses from COVID leave, supplies, et cetera, that have been paid after Spark was finished. And then most of the cities in the county have already applied. One said they weren't applying, and then they reached out to me this last week, and said, hey, how do we apply? So I think they may be applying. So.
Okay.
Tim, how to apply.
Well, but I think that they were not really sure what they would spend it on if it had to tie to COVID, but they weren't thinking about the infrastructure, the water piece, because I
Right.
think every city has needs there, and it's just a matter of whether the funding is gonna be enough help to actually have them accomplish a project within the time allotted, so.
Can we help a city? No.
I think you can, yeah.
But I would hope that we look at 12 instead of 1.
Yeah, the best.
You'd have to I think you would almost have to do that too, as like a grant
Yeah.
application
Yeah.
for the cities.
It'd be best to just be the backbone between the cities and try to stay.
I mean, if they had 3/4 of the money, I'll need another 20% or something to finish the project.
I think you can. I think the more you decide to help other agencies that are not the county itself, the more you have to be careful about the subrecipient reporting under federal guidelines, because that's where it's gonna potentially get tricky, because you have to make sure that they're utilizing their funds the way they were supposed to, and that falls on us under this program, I think. And so that's one reason you may wanna, just be aware that creates additional
Everything that we do,
requirements.
we want it to be very outright, so that we'll see that it will help us in a way that the rules say.
And if you would like, it might be helpful for you all to come up with some ideas or some things that you would want to see happen, and then we could try to get schedule a meeting with Swindle, James, and Hawken to attend or be virtual, to where you could run some of those ideas by them, or if you provide me a list, I could run those by ahead of time, and they could talk specifically to those matters. I don't know if that would be helpful to you.
I like your list.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much will wrap it up right there.
Yeah, we have plenty of projects that that either need to be done now or need to be done in the near future. It's just a matter of, the prioritizing, and then making sure that we're not, that we take the right steps and we're funding the projects that are appropriate for the funding.
I would suggest focusing on your list and finding our priorities as a commission.
One of the reasons why my vote was for Swindle, because I know they just did 16 or 17 units with the first batch. If they do half as many as that, there's gonna be a lot of ideas coming from some of that, and I hope that we can, maybe not jump right off the get-go, maybe 6 months down the road, maybe them provide a list of what somebody else might be doing. We didn't think of that. The COVID building and ambulance, we didn't think of that. Dickinson County did. And so,
The other thing you need to keep in mind is if we do decide to help every community, okay, at what level?
At what level?
Are you gonna
Yes.
base that on their population?
Very delicate.
Because I could see it
You can't help every community.
be an issue if everybody got the same amount.
That's gonna be.
you don't think that would fly?
Well, I think it could fly, but you're gonna have to work it out
Yeah.
demographically
Somebody's
or
gonna fly
something,
with it.
somehow.
I also have an update. You signed that, you approved doing a letter of support for that grant application for expanding broadband into
Yes.
Lehigh, Durham, Peabody. They have had to drop Peabody off of their application because the current provider there protested it. So they are no longer, Peabody's no longer on the application for that.
They're not gonna get
No.
TCT
No. So.
because
Already
That's why you
existing.
can't get any cell phone service south of Peabody.
Yeah,
So just wanted to update you on that. I heard that
That's
this
a-
week.
that's a joke, is what it is.
It's anti-American.
The other, what I heard, and so this is not firsthand, but the
Right.
other company said that they have plans to provide to every household within a certain amount of time. And so I think the city is potentially gonna ask them to come, that representative from that company to come and speak to it and show the plans, because this has happened in other areas and they have not followed through, so.
Well, keep me informed. I'll have to check too, because I'd like to be there, because I've been through since cell phones started in Peabody. And so,
I'm sorry, that's not really funny, but it just
No.
makes.
no, it's not.
He's pretty old.
I mean, it's in our county's best interest to hold them accountable, because
Yeah.
they're messing with our economic growth.
Yeah.
Too long.
I mean, it's a short jump to
Look at the
Wichita.
party lines, huh?
Yes.
People could live there.
Cable is,
Slow.
out Harrington now. 5.
Okay.
Five.
It does?
Yeah, still.
Yeah, that's the one that has
Protested.
protested it, so they had to drop it.
I will tell you though, I will tell you what I did see though from them. They did a complete city study.
Put them up back and talk to
Oh, good.
them.
They did do that. I saw that
Remember that?
personally, yes. I would, adjourn the work session this morning. We'll be back after dinner at 12:30. Unless I have a protest from my council. No, don't have a protest.
Place to stand up, so.
Okay.
will now be recorded.
Okay, we're Marion County Commission meeting, August 23rd. We've had a work session this morning, and we finished that right up to noon. Had dinner now. We're ready for afternoon meeting, 12:30. Public comments. If anybody's online that would like to make a public comment to start off with, we have nobody in the building.
And I don't have anyone's microphone green and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay. I'm gonna move to agenda approval. And Tina, you say that Road and Bridge will not be here at 1 o'clock?
Correct.
Okay. So the 1 o'clock meeting will change to, we're gonna bring up for courthouse security, courtroom security, that we did discuss this morning, and we'll see if there's any motions to do anything this afternoon. So that'll be at 1 o'clock. Is there anybody else that would like to add something to the agenda today?
Does Brad have anything?
I think he may have.
I can handle that under Brad's.
After the sled deal then?
Yeah.
Okay. Put Brad on after that. How long do you think that 215 thing is?
No idea.
Okay.
Sorry, that's a salesman. He's just trying to do a
would
sales
I be-
presentation.
Rude if I just asked how long it's gonna take to start with?
We're the chairman.
Okay.
Yeah. Brad?
Right at 2:30?
Yeah, 2:30 or so.
15 minutes to make a pitch.
Yeah, about 15. Okay. Administrative business, Tina?
Okay, I have the minutes of August 16.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Jonah to approve the minutes of August 16th, second by Dave Mueller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Here come the verbs.
Need some tones? Need some tones? Yeah, on a folder.
Jonah, you gonna pass some of your folder
No.
before you get contaminated?
I have change orders and supplements. So supplements are changes in value for the upcoming tax year. They do not require signature, and change orders are for taxes that are already issued. So we have both of those today for your review.
Change
And the
orders.
change orders need a signature,
Yes,
yes.
they do.
Mhm.
Pass that on down in case anybody wants to look through that.
in your mail folder, I did receive by email this morning a thank you from Fire District Number 3 for the county's assistance with their project of putting in an underground water tank.
It's a good project.
Nathan's also online. Just want to send the letter.
Is it operational yet, Nathan?
Randy, this is Nathan. Can you ask that again?
It is?
Is it operational?
No, it's not operational yet. We hope right before winter. We're also in the works of a new fire station, so that's going to be in conjunction with that.
Oh, cool, cool. Good deal.
But we hope to have that operational right before winter, but especially for next spring burn season.
I think there'll be a whole new outlook instead of having to take so long to fill a water truck up.
Yep, we're looking at 150 to 200 gallon per minute capacity filling, and farmers can use their tanks and bigger bulk supply faster. So that should work out really well.
Well, good luck with it. I mean, that'll
Thank
be
you.
good.
Thank you guys. Thank you, the county. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Becker, last week you had asked what the $8,080 was on the road and bridge miscellaneous and reimbursement, and that was actually a voided check. We had to void a check to a particular vendor and reissue to a different vendor, so that money came in and went right back out. So that's what that was. Okay. We paid it to John Deere, and it was supposed to be paid to Prairie Land Partners, so. Their invoices look the same.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have some early checks today. One is for a pickup truck for road and bridge, paid out of special bridge, and that was previously approved. And then the other is the $1 payment to the city of Hillsborough for the EMS land. And that may be something that Brad's gonna speak to. But as far as the payables, we could do that part, and then whatever he decides to talk about on that land transfer.
Okay.
The deed has been filed, the easements have been filed, but there has been no formal closing, and so that's probably something that Brad may want to address with you all.
Okay.
But
How long ago did we order that truck?
When we made Steve full-time. Not just interim, but
Last year.
full-time. Yeah.
Been a while. What a while.
I don't believe it was last year.
Well,
No, because we would have encumbered money for it then.
It was early.
It would have been in this year, so.
So I'll make a motion to approve the early checks, $36,462.
Second.
have a motion by Jonas, second by Dave Mueller. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. To pay the early bills. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Do you want me to track down that date for you, Commissioner Becker?
No, we approved it.
I had Ashley go back and check the minutes, and she found
Okay.
it, but I didn't ask her for a copy or for when it was approved, so.
I know takes time to get a new vehicle nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure.
Okay, remember what they ordered before.
Yeah. What's this?
Oh, you've got that book upside down. There you go.
I do have.
I was like, why does that look like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll get to that.
You were going the right way, it just looked funny from over here.
Makes it easier if you turn the right way, doesn't it?
Well, who's to say?
I just said to myself, how's come they're on the bottom this time? Should have figured that out.
So this morning, I received the first pay application for the heated dock project. And it was just handed to me. I didn't make copies for you all, but, the amount, requested is $80,424.63. And I'll send this around. You can, there's documentation on what it's for. So this is from Nelson Fowles. And we did receive notification that their bond has been filed with the district court.
Don't want to make you reach that far.
Thank you.
I see on here the contingency, and that's not what we paid. I see. 74 for the dock, that was, some was for the fee, rest of it was bond, okay.
All these dock guys. All these dock guys. I don't know anybody else that operates like that. They're 50% up front. All of them, I think. I know I got a bond, but still, been down this road. 50% up front.
Just the way it is, isn't it?
Any other, in the construction world, this is the first I've ever seen where they're all 50% up. I'd love to get 50% up front, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be treated like the bank. The bank wouldn't pay very much because I wouldn't borrow as much money. A little smart one.
No comment.
No comment?
Love Keith's expression.
Okay, we've all seen the early, is there any questions on the application or payment? Need a motion to do that? I'd make that motion to go ahead with the first payment of $80,424.63. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Kent Becker. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there a place for you to sign?
Ain't that what happens? Get those during the night, I had to jump
You got it crossed off.
Oh, okay.
walk around.
If you wanna just sign it on the bottom under the lines, though. Okay. In your packet, you have this is straight off of the reporting portal that I have to sign into for this, for the American Rescue Plan money. And we have made no expenditures, and so this report, they said leave everything blank unless you have an expenditure to report. And then, so if you page down through the whole thing, you go to the bottom and it says total cumulative obligations to date
Yeah,
and
zero.
expenditures, and it's 0. So this is a 0 report, but I do need your approval on it, and then I can submit that on behalf of the county.
Make a motion for a 0 report.
Second.
Second by Dave, motion by Jonah Guerin, second by Dave Mueller to go ahead with this 0 report for ARP money. All those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
That'll be the last 0 one, right?
It depends. If we have another report due in October, and so that may be a 0, or it may be, we have something on it,
Might be.
depending on how quick you all decide
Is
to.
that quarterly?
To
yet?
mail.
Quarterly reports?
These are the first 2 I know about, and then I don't know exactly how frequent they're gonna be. I didn't put any lines on here for you, but would you all just sign this back page for me?
Okay.
For the file, I would appreciate that. Thank you. I haven't done it yet. I just forgot to put
Hey,
it
you're
in
talking.
here too.
Resourceful.
Oh, look at that, all fancy.
And he's eyeballing to gauge the distance. And it's pretty nice.
So far, I moved this.
Oh,
You stopped
gave me too much
doing it.
praise.
Yeah.
I suppose there's 4 lines.
All right, give me slack.
Oh, goodness. So they just approved the early checks, and one of them was for the $1 to the city of Hillsborough.
Mhm.
But I didn't speak to anything on that, so we do have a copy of the deed that was filed
Yeah.
and all of that. So I didn't know if you wanted to speak to
Yes.
anything on that.
You're right after that,
Okay, thank you.
unless you need to be quicker.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. With regard to the special warranty deed, when Matt had talked with Roger, and I've heard about it, Roger didn't see a need for a closing necessarily. And I think he was thinking of that along the lines of the fact that it was coming from one non-taxable entity, governmental entity to another, which is absolutely correct, no problem there at all. The reason that I questioned it and sent an email back to Tina was title insurance. Generally, I like to see us have it, particularly with the number of easements and the different things in this over the years. It's probably moved, I'll grant you, but it's just good insurance, per se. So I called Roger. I also had called Security First Legal Counsel and one of the other closing agents who's done these a lot in Newton. And you get differing opinions as to whether it's probably a good idea or not. I think the one thing no one argued is that our having title insurance is not a bad thing. But what Roger did tell me at the time was that he said, we can do your title insurance at any point. I said, well, there's a lot to be said for waiting until the structure is up and all the easements have been properly confirmed, eyeballed, cited, everything in place so that all the infrastructure has been installed, et cetera, before we do it. So I didn't really press it any further than that. The deed has been filed, and since we've already started construction, that felt like the right thing to have happened. I just didn't want to forego the opportunity to have title insurance for the county. Roger's indication to me was he was comfortable doing that at a later date and charging us for title insurance at that point. So I'm fine with the status quo at the moment. I do think we want to take note of it. When the project is complete, I think I would still recommend we get title insurance.
Wouldn't it be better to get it before you start putting up infrastructure?
It is, as far as I'm concerned, other than you're adding value and fixtures to the building. You know, it's kind of like buying a lot versus buying a lot with a house on it. I like it just without anything and would have liked it at the beginning of this, but he'd already filed the deed, I think, or at least they were sending it over by the time we first found out about it, or I knew about it anyway. I'm not sure if that's accurate. But
Well, there was an email either on Tuesday or Wednesday saying if the county doesn't object, we'll file the deed on Thursday, and I don't think they heard anything back.
And they didn't, because I didn't talk to Roger till Thursday. And then I thought, well, it's already probably on file. And my biggest concern was I don't want to lose that opportunity forever. We could still do it tomorrow if we want to do it right now. He has no problem with that. As Roger said, I said, heck, I make money off of that, so that's fine either way.
What do they charge? What they charge for the value of the property.
Mhm.
So now property's worth less.
Yeah, if you're
It's
just
cheaper
gonna,
to do it now.
if you just wanna do it now, because really the things that title insurance cover us for, they don't cover for per se boundary disputes, but they do cover for any, let's say that there was, when the city of Hillsborough acquired that, there was some deficiency when, I can't even, MPI, were they the last ones that owned it? Because that's what we did business with. If there was some corporate flaw or some structural issue and someone didn't get the right minutes or resolution passed, and there wasn't proper authority to have signed off, there would be a cloud or an issue in that title. We haven't had it examined for that reason.
So what are they gonna charge? You're gonna charge us?
He threw out a number, and I'm just remembering that because he said, you know, it cost me $450, you know, to do the closing. And I don't know if that was just him hypothetically saying that, or if that's what he was talking about in this particular instance. But that was my only concern. I would like, and I stand by that, title insurance on it at some point. And if everybody wants to now, we
If
just.
there's some cloud out there, you'd wanna know about it up front.
Yeah. And he said, I'm not too worried because of where it's coming from. I thought, well,
It's not that, it's from years ago.
years back. It's always that concern of mine. I wasn't, you know, once he told me he didn't care when we did it, or he would be willing to do it at any time, I wasn't hyperventilating nearly as much, but I thought I'd raise it with the board. But no matter when it's done, I think I would recommend to you that we have title insurance on the property.
And the dollar amount of the title insurance would be the cost of.
Percentage of the cost of, and we just have to assign a value in this particular instance because of how this was acquired, and that's not unusual.
I'd make a motion to go ahead with title insurance.
Have a motion on the floor to go ahead with title
I'll
insurance.
second it.
Second by Dave Profit. All those in favor, go ahead and getting it now and getting it over with. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
I'll contact him yet this afternoon,
Okay.
set it up.
I see this stuff goes back to 60s and stuff.
Yeah, when I glanced through, you know, it used to be we did an abstract examination, and when I first started practicing, I did hundreds of those, and then our malpractice coverage for that particular entity covered it in perpetuity if you had tail insurance. Now, title insurance has just completely obviated the need for those abstracts. They're kind of an antique, but it's really good to
History
have.
book.
Yeah, but it is good to have.
Okay.
So I have one question for the board. We have certain, we have some issues sometimes with people parking at the courthouse all day, like that work at other buildings, and they park here all day, and then sometimes there isn't enough parking for court or other things are happening. So I don't know how big of an issue it is, but it's been raised with me a couple of times. So I don't know if you know, if the board wants to post anything, courthouse parking only, and what our, I wasn't gonna make that, do anything about that without you all saying something.
It was that way this morning when I pulled in, I mean, it was that way.
Almost full, yeah.
Yeah, I had to go around and park in his spot.
Just need some signage.
Well,
So
and
bad.
since it's public parking, so without posting something, I don't think we can prohibit someone from parking there.
But we can, as this county property, go ahead and establish, you know, for county patrons or something like that, we can do
That street parking, I don't
that.
know.
Well, I mean, on the, what are we talking about? Just out front or on this one?
Over here,
Oh,
talking about you.
I was talking about around
front
the
of-
building
Oh,
on
okay,
the
not
side,
over
oh,
here.
okay. Not the
So-
parking lot.
not the parking lot,
Ah.
no.
And I think the city of Marion.
Yeah, the city would be involved in that. We can make that request though.
Well, I just said I would ask, so
No, but,
whatever the board would
you know
like
what
to,
I mean?
wanna try to pursue anything or not.
See, for courthouse, that is parking only.
Or you just put, like they do at cities where they say, you know, it's hour and a half parking or.
Yeah,
90
2
minute
hours or
parking,
something.
What are you gonna do for your employees?
Employees park here all day though.
Employee parking.
You don't have room.
I will tell you.
If it's the street parking that Tina's describing,
go to the city, I suppose, and ask them for whatever assistance we think we need, blame it on the county clerk.
We have asked before, this is not a first issue, we've asked for all employees to not park in front of the accessible routes down here, that they park back or to the ends of the morning so that the public can have the closest routes in and out. We've asked that before, and or park in the county parking lot. So that's been asked before for that, but this issue is of the street.
Yeah.
Well, we have individuals that work at businesses,
Yeah.
like across the street
Mhm.
or
Across the
like,
street, yeah.
over at the auxiliary, for example, they'll use our parking. And so, I don't know how huge of an issue it is, but I just thought I would mention it.
Must be an issue for somebody, they would let you know about it.
More than once.
Or, I would think before we could do that, should check with the city.
Yeah, but I think you have to.
And see that it's all right if we post it for courthouse parking only. If that's the way the board wants to do it.
Direct the counselor to check into it.
Okay? All right.
I will send it to the counselor, not the team.
I think you told me that I can give him a narrative or something like that?
Directive.
Directive.
Directive, that's what it is.
Oh, you used the term directive. Oh, that's not good. Okay.
We're gonna
All
put it on the
Counselor,
whiteboard.
I think the board would like to have a directive given to you to check with the city.
I will do so.
Marion, see about posting some signs for courthouse parking only on both the north and west
Yeah.
parking areas.
You might as well do on the street over here too.
Jonas Park.
Jonas Park.
Wow.
Jonas parking lot. Yeah, let's get rid of that.
You stay out of my area, man.
And you might as well throw the east on it too. Let's do
There you
that.
go. It's the only place that truck fits.
You can vote again, Jonah.
I'll just start parking on the grass.
Oh my goodness.
That's where Randy.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
Mike. Okay, Mike.
Do you want any, I think we already have a courthouse parking sign at the south, I'd have to look at that, on our south lot. That doesn't say only, but I don't know that we need to do anything there.
And would that all be all you'd want, or do you want times on it? Just so I can ask them.
Who's gonna be in charge of enforcing times?
Yeah, that would be a problem.
8 to 5?
It's just a deterrent, that's all it is.
8
Do
to
you
5.
mean the courthouse of parking only between 8 and 5?
That's what we.
But not a time limit
Yeah.
as far as,
I'd rather see that instead of time.
yeah.
Okay.
Anybody disagree?
Okay.
Okay, and that was all I had on administrative.
Just to follow up on our work session, Tina, did you want a directive on the lost revenue calculation for ARP?
That'd be great.
Do you want that as a motion? Or just a?
Either one, whatever the board wants to do, but.
Dave, I didn't hear everything.
Oh, okay, I'll just make a motion that the commission asks Tina to do the lost revenue calculation for the American Rescue Plan.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Dave Bueller, second by Kent Becker to do have Tina do a study.
Lost revenue
Lost
calculation.
revenue.
I had to write it down, so.
Yeah, okay.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. We don't like too many directives in one day.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 o'clock, we put courtroom security on. And I guess I'm just gonna open it up to the floor to see if you're gonna make a motion, where are you gonna bring it from pay for it for this year? If you're, or we can study that in this session right here and see what Tina says on that, which way you'd rather go. So I'm gonna open it up for the floor to talk about it.
I think it's something that's long overdue. We've been fortunate, I guess, up to this point. We could have had some real disasters. Just in this day and age, we've got to take steps. We've got to follow our other counties that are taking similar action. I thought the proposal was very good. I thought the discussion was very good. I'm very appreciative they came in because answered a lot of questions, and I think gave the commission and staff confidence. I was also pleased to see the sheriff working with them. Again, it's a partnership. The question I guess I still wonder is hours. Do we proceed with the proposal as presented, a 20-hour? 24, yes, 24 hour a week. And I don't recall, did that include some courthouse time as well as just courtroom?
I think you can
Fluctuate it.
you could state
Be
what your
flexible
intention
with that.
is in any motion that
Yeah,
you would make,
understood.
and you could drop the contract accordingly.
And the clerk would work with the district court scheduling. So if there's some dead time with court, maybe we could do some courthouse security, and then
Yes.
when they're busy up there,
Yeah,
or some other time.
I would think that would work fine.
But we're due.
Still have not heard how we'll pay for it.
General funds, my suggestion.
General? So it comes out to 49,920, 24 hours per year for 52 weeks.
We'll have to adjust next year's budget to try covering that. I don't know, is that gonna make is it too late to adjust now since we haven't had the?
I don't know that you need to, because that's budgeted within the general fund. I mean, I don't think it's too late
Okay.
to adjust the line item if you want to.
Okay. Wouldn't that be, I don't wanna have to pay for a publication.
You wouldn't have to, because it wouldn't be moving it into a different fund.
Okay.
And so, I mean, adjusting the line item, if it makes you feel better, we can, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
The other thing I would suggest starting October 1, so we would have 3 months this year. And I think Kent's idea also is very good, do a quarterly update, review, see how things are going, which I'm sure they
Yeah,
will.
be reviewed around the 1st of January. That should give a time to see how that's working.
I don't know, did the contract specify as a year contract?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they have a potential to extend for an additional 1-year term.
Okay.
The other thing that they did, the reason I reached for it, because I glanced at it earlier, they have the contractor's duties, they specify how many. I'm assuming based on what Jonah was indicating, that's just the one, kind of using that as a minimum standard. And then I was looking for, they don't really cover it perhaps as much as we may want to, since this one is done as a full-time, for the ability to have flexibility in scheduling for both purposes, and when it's light for court, if it may be needed for another reason here for an after-hours meeting or whatever else you discussed, I may want to put some of that in here.
That flexibility is also stated somehow that when, like what you said in your motion, Dave, or if that was a motion.
I didn't write it down as a motion, so I hope it wasn't.
We were discussing.
But if it does, that they do have some flexibility to roam around the courthouse.
Sure.
But I think they talked about it, they said they'd do it, but yet we need it on paper to remind them that if there is any downtime to do that, so.
And they expressly eliminate third-party beneficiaries, solely the parties here too. So if it is a use of the facility by a non-county sanctioned entity, I don't have any idea what it means over here or where that could come up, but that would be precluded in this. So most of it is here. There's just, we have to tweak this one a little bit to
They're working for us and not for somebody else,
Right,
is what they're saying.
right. The indemnification extends to the county. So there's a lot here that is already applicable.
And would you put a minimum of 24 hours a week or a
That's-
minimum of 96 hours per month?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So if
They're
we
having
need
this
a-
full-time, I would assume we'd want to put our either minimum, maximum, whatever you want to
I
use.
mean,
there.
so like in November, they're gonna have some big trials. Maybe they'll use up all the time the first 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, we don't need them.
Mhm.
The way the proposal was 24, generally 24 hours a week, but a minimum of 90 hours a month, so they're,
Okay.
according to that.
You're always gonna pay them for 90 hours.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that
there's-
would cover that then.
Okay.
There would be potentially a time when you wouldn't use the full.
So you could be flexible.
Minimum was 90 a month.
Well,
That's just what-
I'm pretty sure in the proposal it said a
That's what it
minimum of
says, minimum 90
hours
hours
per
monthly.
month.
Right.
Right. And I don't know what's in that agreement. I
This-
think
this
you have
one.
2 copies there. One is
Yeah.
the Dickinson County and one is the proposed for us.
You ready for a
That's what he
motion?
said he was doing. I don't know if he did.
90 hours per month.
Is there any more discussion? If there's no more discussion, yes, I'm ready for a motion.
I don't care.
I'll-
If you wanna do it, go ahead.
This will be.
I'll second it.
You help me along with it, Ken.
Okay.
I would move to accept the proposal of SD Security for courtroom / courthouse security. It's 24, well, I guess it's all in the proposal, not part of it. Review in quarterly.
You might put the rate in there, $40 a month, $40 an hour. and
Yeah, I can put the specifics of the proposal in. And a flexibility to use when not needed in the district court for the rest of the courthouse.
Okay.
A review of the document by legal counsel.
Also, I assume you'll want me to set this up where we have an initial quarter in 2021 and then an annual for 2022. So basically, you're doing 15 months here. Does that make sense? Okay.
Did that cover the bases?
Got all that data.
Starting October 1st.
Big effective date.
October 1.
For the 3 months, and then run it for another full year.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Have a motion by Dave Mueller, second by Kent Becker, to go ahead with S&D Security at the rate for 90 hours a month at the rate of $40 an hour. We'll have a quarterly progress report to start with. And do you want to continue that quarterly through the whole year? Or do you
Yes.
want- Okay, quarterly report to start, to go through the whole program clear to the end of 2022. Effective date of October 1st, and to be paid, I didn't hear that in the motion though, but to be, we talked about it to be paid out of the general fund.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. That second, Kent, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Oh, thank you. Never mind.
I try to use drop all the time, but when
Yeah,
I do.
it's usually helpful.
Alright. Well, thank you, Commission. We've talked about it, now we're doing something, so, Dave, why don't you go up there and write the date that we did something up there on that board? And make sure that you got this under control. I didn't say erase it, I just said.
Commence.
Oh, okay.
Commencing date.
Okay.
So you're on 10-1?
Yeah, 10-1.
Oh, in red. Okay, we got one.
2021.
Oh, that's here.
Thank you.
Actually, did I see on administrative, we have a proposed resolution for?
There was a draft in your packet, but I didn't know if Brad wanted to bring that up during his time. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
put it online,
Okay.
so.
So they come up later.
She butchered it up.
Right. Butchered it up, didn't hand it back to you.
Oh, no, she handed it back to me in time, and it's correct.
Oh.
So I didn't really have any other
That's
issue
not
there.
butchering it, that's putting it back together.
It's kind of that too. Yeah.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, would you want to bring
Yes.
that issue up now?
I've just been entertained here, so, what are we discussing?
The land bank resolution is in
Land
your
bank resolution.
packets.
Resolution.
If you like the draft, we can take the draft wording off of it and print. Or did you already?
Actually,
Because I have a clean copy, I can make a clean one.
I didn't have anybody call or anything to see, to check on it, to see what it was doing or anything like that, so I didn't have no.
Again, it's a great idea. I think the time has come. We're ready to move forward.
What,
Unless there's other concerns or issues.
well, Board of Trustees, is that ever ironed out? And we decided that it's just going to be
This commission.
Commission.
commission?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's noted in section 2.
Okay.
And then I went ahead and redrafted the bylaws, but that wouldn't be something that you would take action on in this meeting. It would be your original convening, organizing meeting of the land bank. But those were redrafted consistent with what you asked be placed in here. And then Tina had gone through, and I'm getting too complacent about that. The KSAs do have a slightly different section number in a number of instances that are utilized for purposes of county versus city, and she had noted those in there. And then I think one other change, you may not have made it, because I don't think I did either.
Which one?
Shall versus may.
I put it in on my copy as May.
And I think it's better.
Okay.
The shall in a city setting has greater ramifications. I think may, in terms of consultation in a development setting or with engineering or any other professionals that we may utilize, the way I typically have that worded, and it's quite frankly worded as a default for most of the cities, you shall consult with them in certain circumstances. It's not necessarily as exigent with us in a county setting, because what we run into and how we would handle the land is different. And so may is better. It still gives us the opportunity to do it, and it's not a requirement.
And then Randy, you had wanted the mission statement, so to speak, to be in the resolution, and that's under the first whereas. I
Yeah.
didn't put mission statement, but it's in there.
And I would rather it was just as a whereas, so I
Okay.
didn't have any issue with any of that.
I think it's
Do you
well.
want me to, since I put May in this one, do you want me to take the draft out? and-
Yeah, because I'm looking again, because I don't think I
I
took
think
it
I
out.
did.
I cleaned it off.
Okay.
Let's see, consultation. No, I've got it in here too.
As
So
May.
this is completely clean, yeah.
Okay.
So this is ready to go.
So if the board is ready to adopt the resolution, it would be 2021-19.
And then after the resolution's passed, what's the next step?
We set the organizing meeting of the Marion County Land Bank, which is this group.
Right.
You can do it before another meeting. You can do it at 10:30 in the morning. We can do it whenever. I can give you the bylaws in advance, give it to
Yes.
Tina again too, because I think it's really handy for her to look at. And then we just make sure that that's the first thing that happens at that meeting. Then a determination as to whether you want to set specific dates for your meetings and all of that organizing things, those get done. Then we can start talking about scope and breadth of, okay, what do we want to look at? How do we want to begin to look at other properties? There are obviously a number already in the county that probably should be discussed or at least approached about how would you like to get rid of this piece of property and get yourself out of a bunch of tax liability.
I think we've had a really good work session. We've got a lot of good information over several months. The benefit to the county, to me, is indisputable. I like the mission statement. That specifies perfectly what we're trying to do here. So with that, I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-19 for the establishment of County Land Bank and the administration thereof.
Second.
Second. Just finish reading. Okay, we made a motion by Dave Mueller to adopt the land bank resolution of 2021-19, and second by Jonah Gearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Yeah, you better go put a date up there too.
I put 10-1
You're gonna have to make a new category though
for completed.
for board,
This
sets
is
of
on Brad's
bylaws.
side.
Well, the red
these-
can be for in process now.
Well, there's actually several these are in progress.
In process, yeah.
Well, you're putting it off till 10-1? I mean, today's only 8:23.
She's gonna
That
expect
might,
the
that
meeting.
might work
before
okay
that.
though, because by the time we organize.
Yeah, we have the, let's shoot for that. Let's keep that there, Dave.
Target.
Let's shoot for that to get it organized.
Well, yeah, it's still gotta get the bylaws passed.
Yeah, but technically the land.
Maybe
bank is,
that's maybe
should
that's
be
the
done by
first-
publication.
Maybe that's the first property deed.
Ah, yes.
No, what'd you say? Every publication.
We published this resolution, and then the land bank is actually established.
Mhm. So the next publication date is when you have a land bank, and, you know, I can bring a red marker if you guys don't want to do it.
No, only special people get to mark red.
Well, I'll just sneak in someday.
Try it permanent?
Yeah.
Since it's a policy?
Yeah, it's on that left-hand board, and I have a sense of ownership about the left-hand board.
I should have grabbed it.
Okay.
It's actually your mess.
I have to say thank you again.
You don't
because
thank you
it's-
so much.
Yeah,
That's
that's
something
true.
that we've talked
That's
about.
Let's wait till we get something in the water.
Get ready to sign a whole bunch of
I think we'll find-
Oh, we had to sign about 3,000
Yeah.
pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, get ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
good.
coming.
Good. Good.
What's the bids is we're gonna send them all to ourselves,
Yeah.
essentially.
Mhm.
We get to sign them twice. Or
Would you like me to see if Rebecca's available to come over, or do you have something else you wanna do in the meantime?
What happened to health? Oh, you're, I see. You think Rebecca can slip in and out?
Well, okay, so Road and Bridge was at 1 o'clock, and then 1:30 I have registered deeds on my agenda.
No.
We have health department.
Yeah, we have the health
Department
department.
D3,
145 county treasurer, did you
flu
think?
shots.
Oh, on the one on the packet, it must be wrong.
I mean, she's a 2.
Okay.
and Janine's a
Are you on August 23rd
I didn't catch that.
21?
I am, but it was changed, and
Yeah.
I think that updated one never got put into the packet slot.
Oh.
So,
Okay. So,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Well,
so next up on the
Didn't
list,
notice.
you're pretty sure that you have Rebecca changed to next?
Well, I think mine might be the old one. The one in the packet
Oh.
might be the old one.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this one, which came under your name?
It did not.
It did. Because I printed off
Let
the
me
morning
find out.
of.
Let me find out which is the most up to date. I'm so sorry.
Taking great pleasure in this.
Yes, I
Folks,
see
we
that.
excuse ourselves for a minor problem here. We'll be back in a second.
Oh, my goodness.
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties here.
It's just
We always
such-
send one, didn't you send a correction about an hour later?
Yes, and that's, yes, she did, and that's what I was trying to see, which one is which, because.
Uh-oh.
It's down there on the floor.
Well, if it goes off, it vibrates on the
Oh, I get you.
microphone.
Oh, okay.
I just should have set it closer.
Well, I do not care which one comes next. We would take either one.
I'm so sorry.
Dietrich's not up there yet. Gee, boy, it won't show up.
Okay, the updated one has the health department at 1:30, so the ones on the table are right, the one in the packet is incorrect. Sorry about that.
Okay. So 1:30, we will have Deidre here just in a few minutes.
Okay.
Is she coming in?
No.
I don't think so. She'd asked a couple of questions.
Tell
I'm not sure
us
that she was-
Rebecca to come over.
Get her.
It depends on whether she can be done in 8 minutes or not, because Deidre is the one at 1:30. So.
I bet she could.
Her and Gayla seem to be able to.
Kick
What
pressure.
would you like, do you want me to ask Rebecca or not?
Nah.
Okay.
We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Maybe Deidre will show up a little early. See if she comes online, whether she pops up her roll.
for those on the electronic meeting, the agenda is incorrect that you have. So at 1:30, we should have the health department. At 1:45, we should have the county treasurer. And at 2 o'clock, we should have the register of deeds.
All right. We'll be a few minutes here until next person gets here. We'll get started with them when they get in the building, when they get in the room.
Yeah. I'm learning now, it's supposed to start through, it's quicker to park back here. Right.
Seems like there's a lot of steps over the front door.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. While we're waiting, the North Step repair project, wasn't that set for September?
They said they want to
Yeah.
schedule in September, and I don't have a date on that.
Okay.
Not September yet.
No.
Just to give you a little update about the courthouse grounds, we have some bagworms, so we're getting those treated. And the one tree apparently has some carpenter ants in it, so we're getting that one treated. And then I've got someone coming to trim the tree nearest the flagpole, because when we put the flag down at half, the flags tend to get tangled up. So anyway, those things are all in progress, and none of those were anywhere near $1,000, so just let you know.
None of the Army?
Army worms. I got
Army
those.
worms
I
or
got
bagworms?
those.
Army
We have
worms.
bagworms.
Are the
Army
ones in
worms.
the,
Bagworms get in the evergreens.
yeah,
They
Army
usually are
worms
there
are
every
gross.
year, but I haven't seen any this year. It's been too dry for them, I think.
Oh, do we have armadillos yet in the courthouse?
I haven't seen
They're
any,
out on the
but,
street.
and I
They're out
haven't
crushed
seen.
on the street.
There's one crushed here on the
Yeah.
street out here.
I haven't seen any cats
missed
either
one.
lately.
In 1 week, 2 of them, wow, digging at the
Oh,
top.
yeah, they dig.
In the window wells,
Yep.
right out.
well,
One in the window well, and one in the,
Are they trying to just dig a hole?
I don't know, I guess the house of tracks.
Actually, I've seen that.
First time I seen it was 50 years ago over 50 years ago down in Texas when I went on wheat harvest. There's an armadillo down there. What's those things? I've never seen those things in Kansas. Well, now they're here.
They always said that they wouldn't survive winters up there.
That's-
Well,
that's what
they
that's-
proved that wrong.
Yeah.
How cold was it in February?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They find a hole, they can
Not
get
very
way
long.
back in.
This guy was within just overnight, he was over a foot.
Oh, and the claws like
Oh, my God.
a badger.
You grab by tail.
That's all that's sticking out, just gonna shoot the tail.
Shoot at the tail.
Huh.
You know, although I watched a show that there's a guy that hunts and eats Andrews zebra. He went on an armadillo hunt in Texas and they ate it.
I've seen that on Naked and Afraid.
They don't look.
How's your onions?
If you need anything to help you swallow that armadillo, I can throw some onions on it for you.
There you go.
I probably would eat that. I would probably eat the onions.
Cheese, bacon, ranch dressing.
That guy eats some strange stuff.
Was army worms about an inch and a half long?
Green.
About
They're green.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had a whole bucket full of them after I mowed some Johnson grass down the other day.
Yeah,
And I didn't
very
know what they
possible.
were.
They're all over Wichita, and it's some in Newton. It's
Yeah, I heard it's a bad year for
yeah,
them.
real
We
infestation.
got them here, I got some.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered how far north they'd gotten already. I mean, I just didn't know.
This half my backyard.
Back of a bucket just full of them.
Yeah.
Well, not back of a tractor bucket.
After the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I think
really,
there's enough.
and they multiply so quickly.
Oh,
They would be in the yard.
Where's mom? I said, what the hell's that crawling in the ceiling for?
You
A
know,
bunch
these
of them crawling on
bugs
the
just keep
sidewalk.
getting more and more resistant to everything you throw at them.
One of the
There's no
girls-
grass.
Come on in, Deidre.
One of the girls at work took Don dish and pick out, that makes me come up.
Okay. I decided I wouldn't give Tina the COVID report I would just
Because
do
it's,
that
because it's
myself.
changing.
Yay.
Well, yeah, it's changing, but this is as of 07/30. Marion County has 25 active cases, 0 hospitalizations, and 24 vital statistic deaths. Without Friday's vaccination numbers, the health department has administered 2,093 prime Moderna doses, 2,041 boost doses, 323 prime doses of Pfizer, 267 boost doses, 469 J&J doses. So KDHE has total population vaccinated with at least 1 dose, approximately 5,180 residents, which is about 44%. Because I think they're going by our population of 11,880. Then that's over, that's with 1 dose. Total population completed is 4,580, which is approximately 39%. You've probably heard, and I mentioned last week, we'd start getting additional doses to moderately to severely immunocompromised, and that is happening. Friday, we got the standing order from Dr. Hodson, and this is the group we're requiring per KDHE, requiring individuals to sign an attestation when they come in. No questions are asked. We don't even ask them which category. They just sign that they are under one of those categories, and we give them the additional dose. There's terminology that comes with this. This is considered an additional dose. I will give you the terminology because we have to be very careful how we classify this. These are considered additional doses because people who were immunosuppressed probably did not develop the antibodies to vaccine. So we're thinking they never developed that, so they're requiring that additional dose. Once we talk about booster doses, which I'm sure you've heard in the news that supposedly everybody should be available to get that on the 20th of September, those booster doses are for individuals with a healthy immune system who are believed to have developed antibodies for the first in those 2 doses. So, and studies have shown that there may be some waning of those antibodies, but originally they built those antibodies for those 2 doses.
Is there a waiting time between your last dose and your additional? Or
The additional dose is 28 days.
Okay, I mean,
So-
you don't have to wait a minimum of 4 months, 8 months?
No. Now, I don't know what the booster doses will
Okay.
be because it's said that 8 months after the original, there is some waning
Okay.
dose. But, so I don't know what the criteria for the boost doses are gonna be. And we'll have to wait till KDHE identifies that to us. And then we'll have to, much like we had to develop our own standing policy, which thank goodness Virginia Department of Health had one that we could kind of craft, but between Dr. Hodson and the health department, we got it and we're given it.
So is there a difference between what they're giving now, the additional dose, and the booster dose?
No,
That's
it's the exact same vaccine, the same amount, like it's 0.5. So, well, and then for Pfizer, it's a little bit different, but it's the exact, we want to keep, if you started with Moderna, hopefully we'll be able to continue with Moderna. If you started with Pfizer, hopefully, but we can interchange those. So they're all mRNA vaccinations, and so that can be interchanged, but we want to avoid that if we can.
What about the Johnson & Johnson?
Johnson & Johnson, there's no word on a booster. We have some Johnson & Johnson. We're still giving J&J, and we'll continue till we're out. The state's out, so when we're out, we're out. We've had people from Sedgwick County come to us, other counties come to us because their county's out. So.
Okay, Deidre, in the last 30 days, have you noticed any rise in Marion County residents wanting to be vaccinated that have not vaccinated before?
Absolutely, yes. When, before we saw this surge, we probably gave maybe 20 a week, and now we're given like 26, 32 vaccinations. We do vaccinations, try to keep them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As you know, when you open a vial, we like to use it all up because it has a time frame. Different vaccines have different time frames that once you open it, you've got to waste it if you don't. So,
Well, that's good.
so yeah, and we try to accommodate people. I mean, if there have been times when we've had to waste vaccine, but if people are willing to get it, we try to get it. Because some people, if they make that decision today, and if they have to wait till tomorrow, they may not.
So you meant 25 a day now instead of 25 a week.
Right,
You
yeah.
said-
Oh,
You
sorry.
didn't finish your sentence.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that many a day?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Let's see
we've,
how much it
like,
Yeah, it does.
the other day we had 26, one day we had 32, so it's, yeah, people are, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Sometimes I get going on a little rant or something. We have been doing a lot more testing there at the health department. I think I told you that KDHE is coming daily to pick up lab. So through this, with the rise in cases, we've had a lot more requests for testing. We are kind of trying to focus on individuals who don't have insurance, or they don't have a healthcare provider, or if they've been exposed and their healthcare provider is out of town, then we'll typically go ahead and do that. We have had some requests that because of their job, they want to get out of quarantine a little bit earlier. So if we test them with a PCR test on day 6, they can get out on day 8. Typically, the quarantine, in the beginning, the quarantine was 14 days, and we still want people to monitor for symptoms for 14 days, but the quarantine was shortened to 10 days. But if they have a negative PCR on day 6 or 7, they can get out, be released on day 8. If they do not test, they can be released on day 11. So they wait that 10 days. It's a little bit confusing because some of the schools, if they do a modified quarantine in the school, they'll test on day 0, 3, and 6. If they're unvaccinated, if they're vaccinated, they'll test anywhere between 3 and 5 days, and then 7 to 10 days. Now, of course, we recommend they test if they're symptomatic. But what we're seeing is some of the vaccinated people are not symptomatic. And so we're trying to hopefully catch these people before they are infectious. So are there any questions about COVID? That's kind of just a real quick. Every situation is different. The schools have their own little guidelines that they can follow. Some are wearing masks, some aren't. However, they do have to wear a mask on transportation, on the bus. So that's something that is federally mandated. So I needed to find out how you want to handle flu shots. Last year, you all paid for flu shots if county employees did not have health insurance, and just said we only had 2. So, do you want to continue with that practice? At one point, you guys were paying, or the county was paying for the family members if they didn't have insurance.
Any discussion?
I think we ought to pay for the family member, I mean, just try and stop the flu. It stopped last year. I guess, right? They call it
Well-
COVID, I guess, maybe.
I think with the mask, that might have a little, help in stopping the flu. Stopping COVID, right now, we're doing what we can, but
If we paid for all the family, to keep all the employees healthy.
We got away from that last year.
I think just keep doing what we did last year.
I would agree.
I don't hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to do what we did last year.
Second.
Have a motion by Jonah, second by Kent Becker to just pay for the employees only. Am I correct? That's what we did last year, Peter?
correct.
Without-
Because we billed insurance last year.
Okay. So that's only just to pay the employees only. Any other discussion? If this motion fails, why, you can make, there can be a motion the other way too, so. Or we could have two motions on the floor. But anyway, we have a motion on the floor, and a second. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any other ayes? I hear no more ayes. Motion failed. Well, all those, wait a minute, all those not in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. 2-3.
I'd make a motion that the county pay for family members of county employees not insured.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second,
Motion by Dave Bueller, second by Dave Crowfoot, that the county pays for the employee and the employee's family for flu shots. All those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3. Do I hear any other ayes? Opposed?
Aye.
Same side. 2. Okay. 3-2 the other way. Motion passed. County will pay for the family's flu shots.
Without health insurance.
Without
Yeah,
health
we'll
insurance.
And did we want to clarify, it's immediate, it's a immediate family that lives with them?
Yes.
Okay. So household family.
Household.
Now, if you have a college student, that you pay for that, right?
you live in the summertime.
I mean, I'm just saying because
know.
things will come up.
Yep, immediate family.
Okay. I would like to enter into executive session for 15 minutes for employee performance.
Minutes.
Who do you want?
Huh?
Who do you want?
Brad and Tina can stay.
Okay. Personnel performance?
Yeah,
Okay. Non-elected personnel, right?
correct.
Okay. I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss personnel performance pursuant to KSA 75-431-9B for matters of personnel matters of non-elected personnel.
We got enough.
With the board, Brad,
A week ago.
Tina,
Yes.
And Deidre.
and Deidre, yes. Board, Brad, and Deidre, yes. Okay. And Tina. For 15 minutes, that would be from 1:44 to 2:59, or 1:59. I can add time. All those, do I hear a second?
Second,
Second by Dave Crowfoot. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. 15 minutes. Okay.
Well, Susan had planned to come in with me, but today is
Hang on a second. We gotta get our cameras on.
Oh,
Yeah, wait.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, and I've got to make a little announcement here. Coming out of executive session, no decisions made. So, Janine, go ahead.
okay. Susan had wanted to come down with me, but today is the first day that the state is instituting the INVITA system, which is the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System. So when we do a title, it now goes out to a national database. And so it's for, you know, stolen cars, wrong title, errors on mileage. We had one this morning that was a salvage title in Missouri, was sold to somebody in Kansas and rebuilt in Kansas, so, you know, that was quite a process that
it's
goes
working
through.
then?
Huh?
It's working then?
Well, slow.
So she's staying busy with that down there.
Mhm.
Okay.
She didn't feel like she wanted to go off and leave everybody on their own on that, so.
Okay.
So that's our exciting news down there, and I ran some figures, and we're at 98% of taxes collected of 23,486 op 5022, which was our abstract. We have only 441,109.65 uncollected.
23 million is what you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You said 1,000.
Oh,
Total
sorry.
tax.
Yeah, 23 million, yes, thank you.
And out of that 23 million, we have 449,000 that's not collected.
441.
441, okay. Okay. That's not too bad. How
No.
much under that's under protest, though?
How much of that is what?
Under protest.
Well, you have to pay tax to protest.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be any.
Okay, would be any, okay. Okay.
Zero.
In order to file a protest, you
I
have
thought
to
you
pay
could
the
pay them.
taxes.
I've never done that, so I thought you could pay under, just pay them, but then pay under protest.
Yeah.
But you can't pay the tax.
You can appeal when the valuation comes out in the spring.
Okay.
So you can appeal without paying taxes, but to protest the taxes, you need to.
So I'm sure you have a good answer, but why is our tax collections running at a much higher level under a pandemic than not under a pandemic?
I think paying your bills becomes more important in a pandemic than just doing what you want and
Yeah.
catch up.
Or, oh, well, I can move.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Could be.
I mean, it's this way.
It's
That makes
amazing,
sense.
yes, and I think,
Some of it might have been the handouts too. They just transferred it on over.
I think we got some of people's, their first stimulus checks.
Yeah, I know that, you know, the stimulus checks and PPP
Mhm.
and all of that probably has made a difference.
So it's a very pleasant surprise, so. People are doing very well, proud of them.
Good.
Well, that's a good thing, so, and transition is still gonna happen here when?
Well, my last day will be October 8th. so.
October 8th, okay.
Yeah, still got some time yet.
Yeah.
We're trying to, we've had people on vacation and people ill, and so it's harder to get, for Susan and I to get together and work like a full day on something.
Right.
So it's bits and pieces, so, but we're working on it.
Okay.
She will do an excellent job.
Well, thank you, and,
Have you thought any more on the tax sales? Have you found anywhere on that?
Trying to make sure we initiated it after, what was December 2nd?
Something like that, I can't remember.
December 3rd?
Which is suggestion.
Huh?
Yeah, that was their suggestion.
Mhm.
Make sure we do it every year.
I
December 3rd.
I
For
don't
some
see
reason,
any
I
reason
thought
why that
second
isn't workable.
Do we need an action on that?
Well,
I think that you had given
directive?
Mm-hmm. I don't, I'd have to look back on previous meeting minutes, but it seems like the county counselor was gonna be drafting a policy for you to adopt
Because I was gonna say, I
regarding
paused.
the tax sale.
I paused because it's either a policy or a resolution. But looked at
It's
that in terms
something.
of, and I think it's a question of formality, but that's on me in terms of that resolution to go ahead and establish it
Oh,
for
yeah. So
December
there.
2nd.
It's over there in policy.
Yeah,
That's where it's
it's
at.
Tax sale procedure.
Yeah, that was even
Circle
earlier.
it,
And I don't know, you know, what the, if you had
Red
actually
strokes
taken any
are-
action or just had given
I
it.
think it was a directive, but no, it wasn't really a directive.
Well,
It was a consensus.
Technically, anything on the policy side is.
Yeah, it's a directive.
Well, it's nice to have your menus up
I
there,
think it
so-
depends on who's looking at it.
Okay.
There's actually a written one that's much longer.
Yeah, my list is longer than theirs.
Yeah. Tim's is several pages.
We're just realistic here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But if you notice, that red, today is the first day you've seen red.
And it should be dated earlier. I mean, that's not.
It is things that we've got, that's what we're doing.
You're down to, you have dates now, huh?
Yes.
Mhm. Some things have gotten moved forward.
So,
Takes time.
okay.
All right.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
Janine.
And I did get you caught up again.
You
didn't I?
did. Appreciate it.
My job.
Okay, to the,
Rebecca,
yeah, but I'm,
oh,
doing
Yeah.
this. To the public that's on this system board, out of the executive session, there was some, a formal resignation from their job given to us. I'm gonna read it to you so everybody understands, but we didn't want to take no action to give that person some time to go back to their department and talk to their department. So I hope that has been done, or is being done as we're speaking. But I will read what was given to me as the Marion County Chairman. I will read that to you so everybody understands what I accepted, what was going on in the executive session. Please accept this as my formal resignation from my position as the Director and Health Officer of Marion County Health Department. My last day will be Monday, September 20th, 2021, with a retirement date of October 1st, 2021. I am grateful to have had the opportunity to serve the residents of Marion County through my position at the Health Department. Thank you, Deidre Serene. With that, we will have to have a motion and to accept her resignation here in a second. But I will tell you, and I think after the pandemic this last year, that Deidre showed, and her department showed the true colors of their department. It's a very strong department because of the way things were handled with the pods and stuff like that. So, Deidre, thank you again from Marion County Commission for handling those things like that you did last year with the help of all your other staff that supported you. So, with that being said, I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Deidre Serene. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Dave Crowfoot, second. With that being said, is there any other discussion? All those in favor of accepting this on that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Now we will move ahead with the next person online, and we will have some more discussion down here with Brad, probably on, give some directives to Tina.
May I have that letter, please?
Yes.
In person.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so you want me to get Rebecca?
Yes.
You been doing anything with the driver's license for the transfer station?
Yeah, I talked with Tina about, it was not an issue of processing his birth certificate.
Birth certificate.
Out of Louisiana, I can't do a thing
Okay.
about that.
He
So
didn't
that's
tell
the
me
problem.
that. Okay.
Let's help.
Where are you getting that coffee?
What?
Where are you getting that coffee?
It's just water.
Do you need some coffee?
Oh, just something to drink.
Look at man's inside the door there.
Yeah, there's water
Water fountain
inside
right
here,
inside the
or
door.
there's,
Can't bring
we
no
may have
drinks with
coffee
you.
downstairs if you
Yeah.
want coffee.
I think Brad needs some water too.
I thought
Thank
they
you.
would do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll just follow him.
It's the directives.
Yeah, that was a directive, Brad. Some water.
Or knock it off.
I put it in upright.
That guy's gonna be waiting online at 2:50.
maybe. He should be. It's been a bit of an adventure trying to coordinate all that.
That's all you need to say.
What's he selling?
I noticed I didn't see any weird names today.
She's up at the school.
No.
Rebecca was helping someone in her office, so she should be here shortly. There is a contact online that I don't know who it is, and I've been on for a good portion of the meeting, so.
Edit. I think that's the record. You get the editor user, you got the sound user.
Yes.
You got this, they labeled all their computers as certain things. That's an assumption, though. No, for sure. Pretty safe. Actually. People are leaving.
Come on in.
You were all looking so intently, I thought you had something going on.
We're looking at the board.
Easily entertained.
Got a movie.
If the SLED government team representatives out there online, as soon as we get done with Rebecca here, we will get into your part of the meeting here. So Rebecca, go right ahead.
Okay, well, as usual, there's not a whole lot going on in the Register of Deeds office. We're recording documents, we're scanning old documents into the computer system. Right now, we're back to 1991 in deeds and miscellaneous, and do 95 and 96 in mortgages. That means we got a long ways to go. I'm in the process of replacing one of my computers and scanners. That is the scanner that we run documents through to put them into the AS400. So when it was down a couple of days this week, it made life kind of interesting. So we're working on replacing that. And that's really about all I can tell you.
That's a good thing then, isn't it?
That's right.
Things are moving right along and nothing's causing a problem.
No major issue. We're not having a lot of wind or oil right now.
Okay.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
I'll let you get back to your movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we got one other thing on the agenda here to take before we get to Brad. Now, Tina, can you
Caller
find
number one,
caller number one, caller two, see maybe who those are. We're looking for the representative from the SLED government team. Al, I can't pronounce his, Alfieri, Senior?
Alfieri.
Alfieri?
Alfieri.
Al, are you on the call?
Yes, hi everyone. This is Al Alfieri from Granite. How are you?
Good.
That's great. How's everything in Mississippi? Everything, or
Kansas.
how's everything in Kansas? I just got a call with Boonville Housing Authority, Mississippi, so I had Mississippi on my mind as well. I appreciate you giving me the time today. I think I have Andre Vidal. He's also going to be joining us. He's our relationship development manager. I wanted to take some time today, and I appreciate you giving us the time to let you know what we've been doing in the state of Kansas. We work with many of the commissioners in Kansas, have been for the past year and a half, in helping their counties reduce cost expenditures by introducing a cost savings program to them. The counties we work with right now currently are Lebec County, Montgomery, Elk, Greenwood, Sumner, and a lot of these counties we had introduced a program that had significantly helped them reduce their cost expenditures. Now, granted, we'll just give you a little background on us, as we are the largest government wholesaler for analog phone and internet lines in the U.S. So any phone lines you currently have now that you use with either CenturyLink or AT&T, we provide wholesale savings for those lines, which means that whatever you're paying, like for example, if you're paying $1 for a phone line with AT&T, we have agreement where we get that same line for 40 cents. We make a small little profit and we pass the savings along to the housing authorities and counties and cities. So in the instance of like Montgomery County, they sent in all of their analog bills. We did the analysis for them, and we saved them a total of about $13,000 on their phone lines without any changes, contracts, or fees. Now, most of the counties have moved over to VoIP, but they still have a lot of the analog lines left over that AT&T has been raising their tariff rates, and we've been able to help a lot of them reduce those costs without any changes and provide a lot better customer service. So that's kind of what we do and what we've been doing in the state of Kansas. We also do an audit on the phone bills, and we also find that a lot of times these counties, the counties like Lebec and Montgomery, they're paying for taxes on these phone lines, federal excise usage tax, which are actually exempt, and we're able to save money off of those bills as well. So we do free analysis, and that's how we start. And I wanted to find out from you all what you currently have in place now for those types of phone lines. Do you currently use AT&T in in your county?
Go ahead, Tina.
I don't know if you're, I'm sorry, I muted us right now. I mean, we have a variety of different phone lines and systems, and I don't know that you want to really go into all that in your public meeting setting.
Okay. Can you continue on without knowing what we have?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't need to know what type of phone lines you have. I mean, what we do is we provide cost savings, and the next steps, what we would want to do, is totally up to you, is for us to do a free, no obligation cost savings analysis for the county. We do this with no commitments. It's a free analysis that we've done for many of the other counties. I've listed a lot of them on our email, and the amount of savings we have shown them, and I would be happy to do the same for you all if you're open to it. And even if it's a small contingent of lines, it could be 5 phone lines, elevator, fire alarm, a lot of life safety lines that you still have. We found, phone bills as high as $150 a line that a lot of the counties are paying. So we are able to provide wholesale savings to those phone lines and provide you, the customer service that you're looking for that you may not be getting from your provider, AT&T or CenturyLink. So would you be open to us sending you some information, more information, and possibly doing a free analysis for the county?
I would tell the commission that we have done this once. We was thinking about checking it twice, even about checking when we made the purchases of phones and things like that, changing the system. We have done something like this before. I don't remember what we saved or anything like that, but we have done something like this before. So you're not the first here to present this, but I appreciate you bringing that to us. And I think we've been presented as a commission wish to have their number so we can make some talk about it, or is there any discussion on it right now that we need that the commission would like to, or any other facts that the commission would like to know from this gentleman? I'm hearing nothing at this time. I think we've got your number, and we are looking at some communication some deals coming up. There's a communication board that, IT board or something this meeting, I don't know, Tina meets with them, and if we have any questions, we will give you a call and give you a chance to look at us and see what we do have. Is that all right with the board? Okay? Okay, so I appreciate your time and your everything, and we will, if you give us, well, we've got all your information, correct, Tina?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got your information, so when we make that decision, if we want you to look at some of the things, we'll give you a call. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
All
Thank
righty.
you.
Mhm.
You have a great day.
All righty, you too. Thank you. Mhm.
Take care.
Bye. Where did he say he was from? When he first started?
He did.
France. I thought he said France.
Mississippi.
Well, he's been talking to somebody in Mississippi. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh. Okay. Brad, you're up next. First of all, I think just how is our relationship with payment? Have you got any discussion on that?
It's on the list here.
It's on a list? Is that
Somebody has during
Is
his
that
procedure.
executive session or?
It probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
For about 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. And that would be for attorney-client privileges?
Yes. Contract negotiations.
Contract negotiations under attorney-client. Okay, contract negotiations. All right, I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to KSA 75-4319B for number 2 for consultation with our attorney-client privilege with Brad and Tina and the board for 5 minutes from 2:25 to 2:30. Second by Kent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. I have an aye too.
Okay, back in 5 minutes.
Time goes by, and you just don't realize it.
They were preoccupied with the one thing, COVID. That's it.
Yeah, we was.
Didn't, everything else to the back.
This conference will now be recorded.
Out of executive session, no decisions. Okay, Brad, the rest of it, lead us
Let's
astray.
see here.
Lead us astray. Twice. I want to go astray, yes.
I just used the original list. Land bank, I think we've got that one marked up, so there's not a lot more I need to say there other than provide the bylaws. Do you want to have those for review next week?
See,
I
court.
don't know how full is that agenda?
Commission, we need to look at them again. That's what
Oh,
we-
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
for actual
right.
discussion.
Yeah,
Well, and that would be on a Tuesday meeting.
yeah.
The next 2 meetings are Tuesday meetings.
Oh,
Yeah.
Unless you want to hold a special meeting on one of the, on the Monday.
We're just trying to hit 10-1, right?
I can change it.
Yeah.
We'll put 9-1, and that'll put pressure on Brad.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Then it's just a matter of
is
having
that
the.
right?
Yeah.
9-1, okay.
Wow. That's next week.
Brad, I guess you got your.
So I guess it's the 31st.
Next week. Yeah.
You're bullied.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody wanted to change. I'm just doing what the commission says.
Kent's not gonna be here.
But it's just, we're getting the rules to hand to them. We don't have to discuss them then.
And ultimately, it's passed by you as the land bank board anyway, but given it's the same entity and we're discussing it.
I'll be
Okay.
here to pay the bills.
Special warranty need, we've already talked about that. I'll call right as soon as we leave and order the title insurance on that one, so that's, I think, covered. Talked again today with Bryce. He wasn't gonna be here, so kind of crossed this one off, but just to give you some sense. Bridge policy protocol we talked about last week. Made some phone calls to several other counties, and it's they're as frustrated as we are. And in terms of the state, I started with the Attorney General's office in terms of liability questions for any kind of a bridge that we have concerns about, or we have professional opinions regarding its usability, et cetera. And they, kind of gave the general logical answer that, well, you do have some liability for that, so you're going to want to do something to minimize that. Well, yeah, I got that. That's the reason I'm calling. And then I talked with Bryce about.
Did you ask him if that phone call sufficed for that?
Yeah, I said
Yeah. Just follow up, and again, this is from inexperience. What's the difference between closing the road or closing the bridge?
Pretty much just that. If you close the road, you're going to specify an area beyond just where that bridge is located. Okay, like that mile line.
Right.
If you take out the whole mile, if you just close the bridge, you're allowing people how they turn around and go back, because that bridge is their only way across, is going to be their issue. I mean, people, I guess, with a pickup can turn around, but it gives that. What it does do is gives access to the properties. So there's a significant difference in that regard. And the bridge only covers the waterway, so basically we're not cutting off those areas. Now, low water kinds of surfaces, that kind of thing, Bryce can speak to that hopefully next week, because he wasn't going to be here today. He driven out to the one we've been talking about and said there are no other crossings that would be impacted by closing that bridge. There are none on that area, and he's talked to some of the other neighbors, et cetera, but that's as far as he's gotten. So he's not here to speak for a lot of that, so I
think
don't really.
the main issue was shooting down the road, going across K-15, going out west. That's what the main issues were, when really that there's any entrances along that road.
So there's more discussion, I guess, logistically that needs to be had there. Plus, there's a lot more of them. I mean, like we talked about, we've got more than one bridge here that we're gonna have to deal with.
I guess still come back to help me out through this. The problem is with the bridge, and that's what it is in several cases, it's the bridge. But in every case that I've looked at them, it says road closed. There's never a bridge closed. I mean, help me understand why don't you put up a bridge closed because the bridge is unsafe?
Yeah, and I think you can. I don't know of a reason why you can't.
They don't wanna maintain that
Piece of road would be the only thing I can think of.
Well, I'm
So-
just in my mind, I'm going, well, the liability is the bridge.
Yeah, but you also got, you got people that'll go down there and be like, oh,
You know, and a road like that that has no ditches, you end up, if you don't maintain it, you end up with a big ditch down the middle.
Yeah.
Well, and you're closing the road anyway, because the road goes over the bridge, doesn't it? I mean, the road is,
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you've got a bridge in the middle of a mile line, in the middle of a section, you've got the ability to come from either direction to get in a field on each side. If you just close the bridge, you haven't closed the roadway and public access to those adjacent contiguous properties coming down that road. If you close the road during that whole mile line, basically you have. So there is a difference legally in that regard.
yeah, that's not what I meant though. That's okay. It's okay.
No.
Is the
I like to know
process
that.
exactly the same as a road closure?
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes,
the road
that's
actually
absolutely correct.
crosses the
Yeah,
bridge.
that's right.
Okay, so, oh, no, I missed it. Darn it.
Apparently my discussion.
closed versus vacated.
It's fine.
Well, you brought me back to it. It's, okay, so we have.
I've seen you struggling, I had to throw one.
Yes, thank you for bringing me back to my train of thought. So our issue is, we're concerned about the safety of the bridge. We're not necessarily ruling out repairing the bridge. I think that our hope would be to repair the bridge. So it's not a permanent road closure, not a permanent bridge closure, but just how do you notify the public in that short, again, this is where it has to be very simplistic for me to follow through. How do you handle that in that transition time?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can still, a temporary bridge closure, just like a temporary road closure. I mean, we have the ability to do that way. Of course, the timeline is, unspecified. We don't know when the heck we're gonna have the money to repair that bridge.
Right.
But you're right, it's not a permanent, it's not like a vacation or anything else.
No,
that we
it's
would
hard to
typically
sell
do.
though, because public
I know.
perception is when it's closed, it's closed.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they're never gonna go back to that, they'll forget about it now, I get it.
Yeah, well, I don't even understand.
Well, I still think, your odds are probably better getting funded, close the road.
It creates a greater exigency, there's no doubt about that, because
We're
you can't
applying.
even use it.
We're applying for some money on a road we had to close. And with this money, we can open it back up.
Yeah. And I don't, that becomes a policy decision. He and I discussed that at great length, the odds are probably good that people are gonna continue to cross that thing for 30 years and not have another problem. On the other hand, it'll only take one. And if it collapses and sends someone down into that creek bed or whatever, and we have a significant injury or a lot of damage to property, which we probably would, or heaven forbid a death or something, our liability on that's pretty significant, I'll be candid. So we have to weigh those things, and I don't know what the perfect solution to that is, but, and if we just had one of them, that'd be bad enough, but we have a number of these.
And again, that comes back to when we decide we've gotta get some type of policy so
Be
that we
consistent,
can be
yeah.
consistent, which
Yeah.
Randy was good. We can't just, well, this one we're gonna keep open, this one we're gonna close. We've gotta have some type of metrics to be consistent.
And at least some rubric that if you do keep one open, there were specific threshold requirements that made you do so.
Right.
Or you felt like you could do so. And none of that is in place for us right now.
Right.
And I wish I could tell you that several of the other counties, when called, had something in place, but they don't either. Everybody seems to struggle with the same thing, because money is just tight, and to go back out and do all that infrastructure in one fell swoop is impossible. So, but the point being, we're continuing to work with that and try to come up with, Bryce did, this morning when we talked, said, I gotta tell you, I don't know what we're gonna come up with there, from my perspective, meaning his, because he said it's difficult to know how do we establish what that is. Said we can do a bright line, say, you know, it doesn't meet certain standards. For example, he said, we've got other policy things that we need to discuss, and I kind of had asked him about that earlier, like at the reservoir. If you're gonna close that thing down or limit it to 6 ton or whatever it may be, well, immediately, like, what is that over there, money? They will turn and go around it, and suddenly the rest of our infrastructure is taking a lot of traffic and a big beating. Who's gonna pay for that, and what kind of recommendations do we put in place there if we have a federal agency or someone else who comes in and mandates that? It's very much like one of the others on my list with this railroad thing. You know, it's not our condition precedent that creates this, but we're having to pay the price for it. And that's another one he said he and I are going to have to kind of work through, because he said inevitably, he said, I've already watched it start to happen. People go around, and he said, you're going to get a lot of additional traffic on areas that we didn't forecast that kind of load or that kind of frequency. So it's, I guess that one is ongoing. He's, I think, plans to be back next week. He had 2 projects, he said, today and tomorrow that were taking up his time. So we'll continue on with that.
Keep going.
Railroad made that initial contact, and I do not have a response. The original communication is we really need to know if there's some kind of assistance that we can get in terms of having to rework our road system, or what other options there may be for how those things are blocked, et cetera, and what we can do to try to reach some accommodation across the board.
I will say they are changing the way they block the crossings. They don't block them in Ramona as much, now they block them further back.
Still the same difference to me, though. You know, when we talked about it, I said, you know, you can just, I've been through this in another county, and you can just back it up somewhere else. And I said, and therein lies our problem too. These things go on for miles, so exactly where do you suggest we block it? I said, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of a section.
Yeah.
But they're 2 miles
But
long.
that's not how it works, so.
I was on, last weekend, I was on Chisholm Trail, and that Waldeck siding starts just before that. So it had Chisholm Trail and Bison, so 2 mile were blocked.
Yeah.
And it just, there was nobody there. I mean, the crew was gone, everybody was gone, it just there.
Those along,
there isn't very many people that live out there.
right,
But, you know.
those along, like some of the typical ones, those along Sedgwick, in Sedgwick and Harvey County, those along Walton.
Yeah, well,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That thing is a classic example of that.
Yes.
They will park those things for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when it starts to go through Peabody, you gotta sit there for 3 days
Yeah.
to get it through.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Go for lunch, come back
it's,
later.
it's how they do business, but they do take into account, at least that's what I'm told, the fact that there has been some public concern expressed, and so they would take a look at it, but that I don't know what that necessarily means. But that initial contact's been made. Now it's a question of what we can do with it. 5, number 6. Dave asked about this earlier. We have a new employee trying to get the CDL license, which is a requirement for being able to do the job. And Tina had asked me about that when I indicated that sometimes I can make those phone calls. And initially did, but then what we found was that this was born in Louisiana, has a Louisiana birth certificate, and that's what he's waiting on. So I can't do anything about getting him his birth certificate any more quickly. I did, just as a additional inquiry, asked if there was anything else he could do, and they said not to get past 2 forms of ID. You know, we expect that of everyone, and that's not waivable. So, and the birth
Well,
certificate.
this is a county thing?
State. Yeah. Let's see now. In order to get yours, you've got to show that you are the same person that is transferring that CDL. They have limited numbers of identifying documents you can use. One of them apparently that he intends to use is a birth certificate, and he hasn't gotten that yet. So I don't know, unless he has another alternative form, I don't know how to get around that time frame.
The state must be slow.
That one is
I filed birth certificates nationally. State by state.
state by state.
Yeah, I filed.
Department of Vital Statistics is pretty much what they're always called.
In a couple of counties, and something else, and had it back in 2 weeks.
but I guess I've spent $100 for a bunch of different documents. And that expedited things.
Many truck drivers are short in this country. You'd think there would be some type of a plan to expedite.
And there are some things that
Just
you
make
can
the
do to
CEO.
waive some requirements or do a provisional, which is what I was referring to. But that's usually, okay, if they had some type of traffic history in the home state, and that creates a problem or some kind of an issue that has to be checked on, you can expedite some of those things in the new state where you're looking to get it. I can do that. But
What
just,
about Amanda's coming up, gonna be off for 1-year probation? Can we make sure she gets her license in a timely manner?
But yeah,
September?
that should be coming up.
has she not been working on that though? I mean,
I don't know.
That'd be a job.
yeah.
They asked me.
It's up to Joe to get her doing.
Yeah, I would think that would be something you'd be anticipating. You're gonna have it to be fully. Okay. What else? The directives.
I like how he likes these directives.
Yeah, I think he likes them.
Well, the fact that Tina remembers it better than I do. The tax sale policy directive. We can have that for next week and see how that looks in a draft form. Right, it's not, I knew you would be. And then the security proposal, since the agreement has been made, I assume we want to get that thing done and drafted so that someone that's on September 1 knows it's in place already, so that they're starting October 1. So you'd probably like to see that next week as well. Okay.
I thought we were gonna have a short meeting.
Not working out that way.
Not working that way.
Let's see how it
Why don't we
goes.
just-
City of
why don't we just
Marion.
Go back to a month, why don't we just go have a regular Monday meeting and then have a payday? I mean, everything's just exploding anyway, and our payday has already gone out the window from what we'd ever planned it to be. It's just become a regular meeting.
Yeah.
And that's not the way that it was proposed or
Yeah.
accepted.
I can continue on, but I'm waiting for you guys to.
Like I said, just keep getting along, it's gonna be longer.
Yeah.
Last couple of things, well, maybe the last
Go
one
ahead.
is, the City of Marion, I will go ahead and contact them yet this afternoon as well about the street issue.
Oh.
That was another directive, so I just wanna make sure I rehearsed them all.
Yep.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Nice to make that clear. That's a directive.
Yeah, I've got the ones noted with a big D beside them.
Oh.
D for D.
And then T for Tina, well, no. Okay, I think that's,
Well, put the big C when the chairman asks you to do it.
yeah.
Okay.
A D, a C, and a T.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And then when you draw a line through the C, you can just know it's me because it's well centered.
What do you think about that? I mean, we've got a lot of things on the board. Do you wanna just have the Monday meetings and then have the payday meeting whenever it falls? Keep it to a shorter meeting?
That's the way it was intended.
Yeah.
It's up to the rest of you guys.
At least till this chairman gets out of the board.
I have to look at how I did that resolution.
Yeah, you all changed that to make it to where your payday is a regular, you do payday
Yeah,
on
you
other
could
business,
use-
and you did a resolution on that.
Yeah, did a resolution on that?
So we need to check that. See.
When we change the time in the afternoon,
How about, we can just do it one time for this month, can't we?
and add a meeting, you
Just
can
add-
even call the
You
special.
can have a
meeting.
special meeting.
So we're doing our regular meeting will be the special meeting on Monday and then Tuesday.
Yep, you can do that.
The payday, just like it's gonna be right where it's at anyway, so.
Yeah.
So you'd like to have a special meeting the 30th and put some of this stuff on?
Yes.
Kent?
Would that be a special meeting, or would it just been a regular meeting?
Well, no, at this point, because you've taken your regular meeting based on the resolution and done it on the last day of the month, because you gave yourself that option, as I recall.
Yep.
And then you do a special on the 30th. Because you're 30.
The special
30th.
would be the 30th.
30th
So what's-
is special.
We've got how many items? We've got the bylaws, got the.
It kind of comes down to how many do you want, because there's some others that I intentionally skipped over because they really aren't that pressing.
The main thing is Ken has to leave, what, 10, 9:30?
Oh, that's just on payday.
Payday, 31st.
If we have a meeting on the 30th, then I'm running.
Everybody in favor of having a meeting the 30th then?
But you do what you guys do what you want.
That's what I'm
Don't listen
asking
to me.
now, if we want to have a meeting on the 30th and do some of this stuff right here and not have nothing else on it, but just have a Brad meeting.
Brad Day?
Have a Brad Day.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
That won't be a short meeting then.
Well, some of it we need to get accomplished anyway, so. I make a motion, we have a meeting, that's gonna be a special meeting on the 30th at 12:30 for take care of drugs.
Some of the
Are you
stuff.
meeting tomorrow?
No.
What's up there?
There's
What'd
something
you have?
up there, but they.
What'd you have on?
Leadership meeting on.
Something at 12 o'clock.
24th? I make a motion to have a meeting, a special meeting on the 30th at 12:30.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Kent. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. So we've got a meeting the 30th.
But on the 30th, if it's a special meeting, you need to specify your agenda.
That is to take care of the attorney's client's business.
Executive session.
Pretty broad.
Well, you have to list the subjects.
Yes, list it.
Land bank bylaws.
Pretty much the list of directives.
It's a directive list.
Right.
Do the directive list.
Is that fit our resolution? Meet
How long is that directive list? Because that's technically everything up there too.
You're gonna want to start a lot earlier and be in here a lot later.
Honestly, I mean, honestly, it goes without saying, and policy is a directive
Yeah.
list.
Well, I can tell you, I've got 270 meters yet to read, so I'm ready to get out of here.
Today.
Today,
Yeah.
yeah.
We can put a lock on
Let me
this door.
search it out.
Just give them a free bill for the
Yeah.
month. And then give them a double bill next month.
Okay. I'm just pretty sure we said that. We said that. We used that. Not that. That's not.
You starting to get radio meters? Drive-bys?
Well, no.
Like
Tire.
sure.
Yeah. You put the tire.
Yeah.
You put the pulpit. Yeah. If that violates our resolution, we don't have it then. I'm just trying to get something worked out.
Well, you can set a special meeting, that's not a problem.
Yeah. Well, we have to announce.
And I'm,
Hey, Brad,
you know, other
Yes, sir.
than,
why don't you just send Tina a list Friday, everything that you got done for a meeting for Monday?
But you guys have called it today, and when you approve it, you approve the agenda for it.
Not today. We don't get the agenda till Friday.
Well, on a special meeting,
This
you
is a
set the
special
agenda.
meeting.
Oh, this, okay, so
We set the agenda.
detail, I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Just to get some of the stuff done that you want.
hey, honestly, I can stay all day Tuesday, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't really.
Do it without me.
What time is it
Well,
Tuesday?
go back to Tuesday then.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at Tuesday, Tina. I've got feelings there, but leave it at Tuesday.
Maybe it's Tuesday.
Okay, but you just took action to do a special meeting on Monday, so if you're gonna leave it on Tuesday, you're gonna need to take another action.
Yep.
Okay,
Make a motion to remove the special meeting on
there you go.
the 30th.
Second.
I second that, yeah. So we just have Tuesday meeting, but it will have Brad's stuff.
Who seconded?
At 9:30?
9 o'clock.
Right,
9 o'clock is when we usually have.
9 o'clock.
You gonna vote?
Have a motion to have the regular meeting, wait a minute. Vote
Special
on,
meeting.
go ahead, vote on this, is what you're saying.
Vote to remove the.
Vote to remove the meeting, well, all those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then on the 31st for payday, meeting,
regular.
That's at 9 o'clock, and do you want to handle some of Brad's stuff till noon, 9 till noon?
Yeah.
Okay, 9 till noon. Handle some of Brad's stuff. If you can make it, Brad, I don't know if that's,
Brad work session.
Brad
work
he's
session.
busy that day.
It's not a work session, though.
No, it's a regular.
Yeah, it's a
We're
regular meeting.
gonna approve stuff.
So,
Get the red pen out. Red marker.
Wow. We got a work
scratch
session.
that off, let's have a payday then. Brad's busy. We'll just wipe it off till the first regular meeting in September. Because that's,
Seventh, Tuesday.
we got something, got a lot to do that day.
We got that afternoon,
Yeah.
that evening in place.
Yeah, so,
I guess we can't leave it there, adjourn it.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
It counts as easy, so.
That's the plan. Just have some Zoom meetings and get stuff done. That way I can be in my truck still doing it.
So we're doing payday and other business on the 31st.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
9 till noon.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We still got a few topics.
Don't know exactly what we're not even done yet.
Well, I can look up the resolution, it's just,
That's
I've
okay,
got
I
them in the
can-
vault.
Yeah, I can hit the office too. No big deal. Just for curiosity's sake.
If the board wants that right now, but,
Randy,
Yeah.
I think they.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Then you got public
I'll-
comments and
Oh,
Commission
okay.
comments.
Oh, Dan.
Okay.
We got a half an hour yet.
Yeah.
Commission comments here. No, public comment first.
there's no public on the call.
No public online, none in the building either.
move on.
Commission comments.
Now I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dave Crowfoot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned out of here.
You got me ears to read.
You got me.
Meters turned.
Got 2 nights a day for that.
It's hot out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.